It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Richard Campbell's here. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Google breakup. How does it compare to what happened to Microsoft a few years ago? Also, hacking Copilot. Is it possible? Apparently, it is. And a big sale on games at QuakeCon. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 894, recorded Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. This isn't the airport jail. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we get together with Richard Campbell and Paul Thurrott and discuss what the heck is going on with Windows. Here they are on my left.
Sides are complicated.
Well, stage right. Your left, my left, your right. Anyway, Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com, THURRO, He's also published author at leanpub.com. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Leo.
In Macungie today.
Yeah, I guess. I'm going with the postal address today.
On my right, Mr. Richard Campbell, runasradio.com. Host
Yes,
of
sir.
.NET Rocks, Run As Radio, and his fine plant. What is that? Oh, look, you have a switcher too.
I have a switcher too. So
He's
magic.
not afraid to use it.
No, I got a button.
That is, remind us, that is the sound of the Puget?
That is Georgia Strait, actually.
Georgia Strait.
Or is also known as the Salish Sea.
Oh, so cool.
It's the Fleur de Mer.
And together, the two of them are going to explain everything that's going on today with Windows. We're so glad you joined us. We are today in the attic studio, so all three of us are in our homes.
Yeah, let's see. Can we
This
do
is the first.
a broader view of this?
You want a broad view?
Yeah.
So this is
great.
the background.
Love this set. Yeah.
But
Are
I
you worried
also
about this falling through the floor of the attic? It seems like a lot of stuff.
It seems like it would be really heavy. If I were ambitious, I would go over here and show you how light that is. I can lift it with one hand.
Okay, nice.
It's aluminum. Is that an original Mac
aluminum.
back there too?
Huh?
Is that an original Mac back there?
Yeah, this is John Slanina as his retirement gift to me, which is a little strange. Gave me his old 128 Mac, and we were able to get that running. We had to add a little something that emulates a floppy drive, but we were actually able to get that running.
That's
So
awesome.
that's kind of cool. This is a fake Altair, but I always had that, right? And the fake PDP-11, but they're great from Oscar von Mühlen. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, and I can show you. Actually, I have an even larger view of the
I think you said last week you have like 7 cameras in that room, right?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Here we go. Oh, yeah, that's right. The library view. Nice.
Took out the mic in the process.
That's the little corner.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
What's that's a chair, I see.
when I
Looks
have
like a
to do
giant.
an
Looks like
ad-
is that like a King Kong hand prop from the 1978 movie?
It's like one of those chairs that holds you. No, that's the Dr. Evil chair. We had.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay.
At great expense. That thing weighs 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
That's
There's one
thing
left
that's
at the
chair.
studio.
That's the thing that's going to go through the floor is that chair.
Yeah. Or the
It's a
or
pretty-
those vent
You
tags.
can't see it, but there's a big beam over here that's supposed to hold me up.
Okay.
But
Well,
the problem is
we'll
the
find out.
beam goes down into the garage. And if anybody pulls into the garage, and it's a tight fit, if anybody
Right.
pulls into the garage and hits that beam,
Yep.
It's going to get exciting.
That's
and
going
when
to
I
be
do
good
the
TV,
Club Twit
though.
ads,
The booth
I've got
studio.
this camera.
There you go.
Join the club.
I like it.
So
Only you
it's
can
kind of
prevent
fun. I
forest
think,
fires.
yeah, this is fun. We're having a good time here in the
Now there's
new
like a
attic
bleed through
studio.
at the top.
I like it.
Oh, it's
Oops,
over.
wait a minute. I seem to have shifted. Let me just move myself over
There
there.
you go.
Thank you. I have the power.
You do have power.
And what do they say about great power, Leo?
They say great power leads to
Silliness.
silliness.
Pop breakers.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
I
Let's
have
ask
arranged.
Google at Apple what they've done with great power. Nothing
Yeah,
but
no
good.
kidding. Actually, it's not in your rundown, but the big story, of course, this week is that the well, I guess you're going to get there. No, it is in your rundown. Never mind. We'll save that. Let's start with the thing everybody tunes in for.
I know. Well,
Paul's
the good news
right.
is if you don't have a lot of time, the Windows part of the show is about 3 seconds long. So that'll be good.
Hit it. Hit it,
Have a
Paul.
weird week.
What's
All
up
right,
with
put in your
Windows?
timers. Let's see how quick we can get through this. Yesterday was Patch Tuesday, so we talked about this. We've talked about this over the past 3 months-ish. I don't know, but we get these Week D preview updates. We've had the Week D drama last month's Week D preview update for Windows 11 version 24H2 was a Week E update, as we don't call it. But yesterday was Patch Tuesday, and it, as I expected, although, again, everything's up in the air these days with the Windows team. It all came together, baby. So 22, 23, and 24H2 are once again realigned. Just like that planet alignment that was going to destroy the universe or whatever. The only asterisk to that is that most of the new features are CFRs, so you'll get them when you get them.
Right.
But I noticed on the laptop I'm using currently, which is on 24H2, when I rebooted, I had the ability to drag icons from the start menu down to the taskbar.
Oh, so you do have that feature in.
I have that one feature, on that one computer.
Both my primary workstations, which are running Windows 10, were rebooted this morning. So
Okay.
They must have gotten something. No, this one still says 22H2.
Yeah, these two computers in here both rebooted overnight as well. I think they're both 23H2 probably. Actually, this one might be, who knows? You can't tell anymore. What's the difference?
Yeah.
It's 20. No, this is 24H2. That one's 23. Yeah, I mean, I this is a lot like when we had that. There were 3 different versions of OneDrive you could have in Windows 11, and it's kind of just a roulette wheel. We'll see what we get. And same thing. I opened up a laptop and it had 4 tiles on the lock screen. Another one had 3. Like it's that kind of uncertainty we're never going to get rid of. But yeah, so pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then there hasn't been much movement in the Insider program unless something has happened today, which I'll check during the first break.
Very likely. Yeah, that's how they do it. They wait till you start and then they...
Yep. Is he talking? Yeah, good. Ship it.
Down.
Yeah. So we had one set of builds, dev and beta channel. I think it was late last week. The dev one is not particularly interesting. The beta channel has a couple of things that are, kind of interesting. They had been testing a minimalist kind of system tray area with a short clock and all that stuff. They pulled it for a while, and they have brought that back. So that looks like it will head to stable, August, September, probably in time for 24H2's official rollout or second rollout.
And with 24H2 now integrated, is that all of the Snapdragon stuff, like the big thing they were pushing for? Is that now like generally available?
Well, define generally available.
Yeah.
It's generally available for Snapdragon X-based Copilot Plus PCs. Anyone can get it per the tip that I think dates back to May. You can still do that exact same thing.
Is it lit? I mean, the question is, what defines a Copilot Plus PC right now? Right? Is it just the Snapdragon hardware?
Today it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, is that going to change at IFA or when 24H2 has its second big release in October-ish? Yeah, probably.
Well, this is the whole thing, right? Is like, how are they defining that right now? Are they literally just looking for the chipset and saying, okay, this is a Copilot Plus? Because that's not sustainable. Like, I should be able to build a machine that qualifies.
Yeah. Here's what I can tell you. You could build a machine that qualifies, but it doesn't mean it's a Copilot Plus PC.
Right, it's not going to be recognized. And that's where my question is, what's the recognition? I wonder if it's just a registry entry. Like, could I just flip the flipping bit?
So actually, I would say to the operating system, there is nothing that defines, like you'll never see that notation anywhere, right? You'll just have whatever version of, it would be 24H2 and whatever build it is, and then whatever Windows feature pack, whatever we're calling that these days, you can see that stuff in settings. But the way it exposes itself, I suppose, is just through the availability of those features that are unique to Copilot Plus PCs.
Right.
But I was going to say the big question mark, but actually there are a bunch of them. But let's just say one of the big question marks is, one of the big differentiators is that you have all those on-device LLMs or SLMs or however we're going to define those language models. And it's really not clear how those will appear on everyone's computers, because at some point you will be able to upgrade to this thing, right?
Yeah.
If you have a qualified PC or whatever. And
again, it's like, how are you qualifying this? Is it just a setting? Because I got a heck of a lot more tops in my my RTX than what they're requiring. So
nobody cares about those tops.
Yeah,
they only care about one kind of tops, and you don't have it.
Yeah.
So, I got more tops in my RTX.
Yeah. And I'm perfectly willing to plug a second video card in if they want it separate from the actual video display. Like I got a couple on the shelf. I'll do it.
Look, ever since that day in May when they announced this stuff, this has been one of the big questions. So, I mean, we know the AMD chips, I think, are all out now. In fact, I think it was just today.
But there are no AMD-based Copilot Plus PCs.
No, and again, we have to infer. We cannot.
It's going to be a long
state.
We said it was 6 months. That's going to be October. It's going to be a long couple of months, man.
It might be past October, right?
Yeah,
because as is the case with Windows on ARM right now, Qualcomm clearly has an exclusivity window with Copilot Plus PC as a brand.
Yeah,
so,
but they've never admitted that, and they've never set a time limit on it.
Right.
It's now assumed. Didn't Bloomberg kind of leak that out at one
Somebody
point?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
I no one has ever come out officially and said it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it clearly. I mean, we can speak plainly here. This is clearly the case. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can only say what we know, but. What we don't know is, the when. And then I suppose there's still some sort of a look. One of the possible outcomes is that new PCs based on these new AMD and Intel chips that meet the TOPS qualification and have enough RAM and all that stuff will just get those Copilot Plus capabilities at some point, either literally in October with 24H2 or somewhere down the road. And we may still not call them Copilot Plus PCs. One of the possible outcomes is that Copilot Plus PC is the name of a set of experiences that are based on local AI and NPUs. And, it's just like anything else, with regards to specific hardware, you can't have a Windows Hello facial recognition experience unless you have a compatible camera, right?
Yeah, so, but there's a bunch of different vendors that you can get that from, and there's a bunch of different machines, right? This is weirdly isolating. And the specifications they said to us to say, this is how you qualify for a Copilot Plus PC. Lots of machines qualify for that. They just can't get to be Copilot Plus
I am not disagreeing with you, and you're hurting my perception of reality. So, you're right. I mean, I
would argue that Copilot Plus PC is going to become an irrelevant term soon.
Yeah.
Because they are hanging it on something. Like you need to free this up.
It also feels like a slice in time because in the same way that a 40 plus TOPS MPU is better than a 13 or whatever TOPS MPU, next year we might have 80 or 100 TOPS MPUs. And then, in the same, and then
meantime, I'm
down
sitting
the road,
on a 14,000.
Yeah. No. Well, remember in the 90s, we used to have.
That's what a 40 to 70 ranks at, man.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, but it's MPU, we've talked about this. I mean, there's efficiencies to that. Right now, it's very much targeting mobile computers where that efficiency makes the most sense or whatever.
Right.
But we're gonna get past all these terms. AI PC, that's gonna come and go because all PCs will qualify for that.
Exactly.
Thing.
Honestly, isn't it just like Evo? It's just a market.
Well, it is. I mean, so Evo is interesting because Evo is an evolving spec. So there's been at least 3 major kind of versions of Evo. Not that we really talk about that too much, but the Meteor Lake generation of PCs it represent the latest gen. I mentioned this kind of specification for Lunar Lake going forward, where they have to have at least, I think it was 3 USB 4/Thunderbolt 4 ports with at least one on either side of the motherboard, meaning on the other side of the computer. That becomes part of the spec. It's something that improves over time. But it's vague and untrustworthy. I mean, one of the parts of Evo PCs was some number of hours of battery life, and I don't think I've ever used an Evo PC. I think
part of the problem here is the AI experience is already confusing. Yep. There's this implication that you need specific hardware. To get certain experiences. And now, the opportunity to create a brand that would say you will get your best experience when your hardware qualifies this way. That's compelling. And you're going to chuck it out on an exclusivity agreement if you take too long.
Yeah. Well, Yes. I don't know what to tell you. When you look at the various generations of Windows on ARM PCs, I guess, for lack of a better term, there have been different brands that have been associated with each one of them.
Yep.
The initial Qualcomm-based stuff dating back to 2017, 2018, whenever it first came out publicly, those were always connected PCs, right? And one of the big qualifications for that was it had to have built-in 4G or maybe by that time 5G connectivity in eSIM form, right? And one of the big benefits of a Qualcomm motherboard, main board, compared to like an Intel or AMD one at the time, and still a little bit today, is that this company has been working on these integrated chipsets for a long, long time, so they tend to be a lot smaller. And so you get a couple of interesting benefits there. You have eSIM instead of nano SIM, although most PCs actually have both. The smaller main board allows you to have a bigger battery. So because there's more room in a case, or just a thinner and lighter computer, obviously, right? But the idea there is that there are efficiencies in the chipset that are going to deliver better battery life, but also just you can have a bigger battery, right? And that's also going to help with battery life, right? So, but we walked away from that, right? And, you can sort of see the competitive focus, I guess, of Microsoft, especially how it shifts over time, because back then they were very much focused on, we want to make sure we have these efficiencies that everyone sees with phones and expects, right? That nobody thinks about this, I bet, but you pick up my phone screen is sitting here on. This thing will last all day, no problem. I pick it up, it lights up, it does a face thing, I get in, like it just works. Like it never doesn't work, right? I mean, obviously sometimes
unless you use Bluetooth, then it doesn't work.
But. No, I mean I just meant the power management and instant on stuff.
The power management part is
a lot of stuff doesn't work, but it's understandable Microsoft would want to bring that experience to the PC, right? And they tried a little bit with Windows RT. They tried more with Windows 10 on ARM, and now their competitive focus is AI, and it's like, well. How about MPUs instead of always on?
Well, and therein lies the real thing, right? It's like, where's the standard, right? What was great about what was great about DirectX was it didn't matter whether you had it didn't matter what kind of GPU you had. It didn't even matter if you had a GPU because it would emulate it in the processor if it had to. So you always had a consistent interface. There's a bunch of different MPUs out there. Like this is a compatibility play, and GPUs should qualify.
This is the orchestration thing I keep talking about. Like I think a future, more sophisticated version of Windows will do that work for you. Just it will be the orchestrator, as I think of it for AI, is what DirectX is for graphics. I mean, it will look at what you have and just do the right thing. So you as a developer of that game don't have to think about that. You as the owner of that computer don't have to think about it. It's just going to work, right? That's the goal.
And so the fact that they created these exclusivity arrangements, like you're literally hurting the business. You're hurting adoption.
But this is unfortunately, this is what you get when you are part of a market that has lots of players that all have their own strategies and needs and goals and things, and so sometimes they're contrary to each other, right? We talked about this last week. I didn't mean to do an ad for Apple, but one of the benefits of the walled garden culture is you have one vision and you're doing this thing. But we have the choice, right? And so you as a desktop PC owner, you could say, look, I want my games to be run at 8K. I'm going to buy a really expensive graphics card and make this happen or whatever. You can do that, or probably not 8K, but you know what I'm saying. Like you have that choice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it does mean that even though Apple's a late mover, they have an opportunity to do a lot just because they have a complete control of the stack. And I think Microsoft, in a way, with this deal with Qualcomm, was trying to get that effect. We're going to do it with this one stack, but that's fine.
There's so many stories here, dude. It's funny. Like Qualcomm actually entered the story with Windows and ARM at multiple places before they became the story, right?
Right.
They were part of the original announcement of Windows and ARM when it became Windows RT, but only NVIDIA was the go-to market. So they kind of fell out somehow there. And Microsoft announced a partnership with Qualcomm for Windows RT 8.1,
right?
Which never happened, right? There were no Qualcomm-based Windows RT 8.1 devices, but there was a big announcement. You can go find it. And when Windows 10 came around, they're like, we're back, baby. So Terry Myerson, whatever, that version of the Windows team wanted a company that could stand up to Intel, right?
Yeah.
And Qualcomm kind of sells a lot of chips.
Yeah, but still, Intel is a monster. There's no two ways about it.
But. Yeah. Yep. In so many ways. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and folks are asking about the dev kits. Officially, today is my ship day for my Qualcomm dev kit.
Okay.
Not that I've gotten an email from them or anything.
Mine was supposed to come in end of August, I think.
You mean Bob's Warehouse didn't send you a prompt email ship notification? Weird.
It's what is it? It's Arrow.
It's Arrow. Yeah,
Arrow.
Yeah, I just checked mine. And it said, "Oh no, your estimated ship date is
your Vista print order is on the way."
There you go.
I can't wait. I will have it on the desk right here. It'll be fun.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. No,
I'm immediately going to plug a whole bunch of third-party devices into it and watch it crash.
Well, let's see. I mean, actually, I'm going to be very interested to see what your results are there, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, we'll see. It's all about how the hardware is, but I'm
back to your original question. Copilot plus PC to me is not a great brand. I think it was something they threw out for Qualcomm because with AMD and Intel breathing down their necks, and they had been working on this for years and years and years, billions of dollars, and yada yada. They finally had something awesome. It's like, guys, you got to give us some moment in the sun here. And they had already used AI PC with Intel the previous December. So,
but in meantime, the AMD chips are out. Lunar Lake is imminent. Like, what are you going to call these things?
Right. So the PC makers are calling them AI PCs.
Right.
So they have settled on this term. I suspect, like I said, there are two ways it could go. They could become Copilot plus PCs, just like that 1 HP Dragonfly Pro became a Chromebook Plus when that spec came out. It sort of got grandfathered in because it met the specs. Or the other alternative is they just describe it as an AI PC that offers those Copilot Plus experiences, which refers to literally on-device AI. But again, what was the number? 40-something? Over 40 SLMs.
Yeah.
I don't know where those... I mean, they're going to download, I guess. I hope you guys aren't on a metered connection because that's going to be an ugly couple of days.
Yeah. Thank goodness for fiber. And in the meantime, I'm staring at the Pixel 9 announcements, right? And the TensorFlow 4s on it, and they're going to do a bunch of SLM stuff in my phone. We're going to talk
about this because I have some questions. I have questions about you with the.
I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay, but I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
That's my job, Richard.
Yes, Leo's supposed to jump ahead. No.
Thank you for distracting me, Leo. I mean, Richard, I'm confusing you guys.
We look a lot alike. I understand.
Okay.
But speaking of apps that actually do stuff on the machine.
Yep.
Estimated delivery 15 August.
That's tomorrow, dude. That's exciting.
I like when the estimated delivery is like in the past.
I'm very excited. This is cool. Maybe I'll do a special stream. By the way, the people said they like me underneath you guys.
Oh, that's funny.
So you're on top.
You're the one holding us all up, Leo. That's what it is. Without you, what is there?
Here's the thumbnail, Kevin.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, we got to do the good YouTube thumbnail if we really want to succeed.
We can do the Brady Bunch thing where we all look at each other.
Somebody's already done that in the Discord. Yeah.
Somebody pulled an original Brady Bunch clip.
Here's the story. I'm excited. I'm glad you mentioned it, Richard, because I just checked. Because they had originally told me it would come later that week, like Friday.
And
the
week
I ordered it a month ago.
Yeah.
So, but now, it says estimated delivery 15 August. Estimated ship today.
Yeah. So we both ordered that day.
Yeah.
Supposed to ship today. I'm coming to Canada just a little bit further.
I honestly, I thought, like with everything else, the longer you wait, the later you'll get it.
Wait, what?
I think that they're all shipping. I really feel like
they waited till a certain batch was sold and then they ordered them all at once. So hopefully we're in like this.
And then they ordered the parts.
Something like that.
It's coming from Qualcomm, I presume.
Well,
we'll find out.
Actually, this says Thundercom Technology.
Yep. Company of the future. Tomorrow's technology yesterday.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Somebody filled out paperwork because they thought Thundercom was a good name.
Thundercom.
The pallets of chips are coming in now.
One wonderful thing we could do now with our Copilot Plus PCs is add AI features to Clipchamp.
There you go.
Yeah. So is this what you were alluding to earlier, Richard, when you said,
Yes.
speaking of, yeah. So
AI stuff
I'm not
on my
100%
machine.
sure what happens locally and what doesn't. I can say that this thing does go better when you have a GPU and a faster processor, but I don't know what that means.
Dude, the amount of time I spend running different software with the resource manager on just to see if that MPU flips up at all.
Right.
All right.
I was using Typora, which is a markdown editor, which I really like and whatever. But there's the HP laptop I'm using now is a weird keyboard problem. And so I was typing, and I think it's like Shift F12 or something. Well, of course that's what it would be, which is really Shift Home or Control. I guess it's Control Home. But Control Home is Control F12, and Control F12, you've done it. The web browser brings up the web dev experience.
Right.
So that pops up in the editor, and I'm like, huh. Like that's just, I guess that's what we're doing.
Now what do we do?
So I guess you could probably do that in Clipchamp as well. But anyway,
Clipchamp is
so
all
that's
browsers
available,
all the
by
way
the way.
down.
There is one. I bet there is
Chipclamp.com
one.
if you want to
Yep.
sign up now.
Chip clamp. Anyway, clip. Now I'm never going to say it right. Clipchamp. Such an awkward word. Is available for individuals for free. It's part of Windows 11 and a bundled app form. It's a web app, and then it's also available for Microsoft 365 Workers School customers, right? And they have storage, et cetera, associated with it. So I don't actually have this yet, but there are two new AI-based features which are obvious and awesome, right? So background removal and noise removal. And background removal is also background replacement. So you can do like a software-based green screen effect, which, it's probably running in the cloud, frankly. But again, this is one of those things. This is a good example of software where I hope that they do that checking and run locally if they can and get better results if they have the right MPU.
Which would be somewhat unprecedented, right? Like we talk about this on the Blazor side of thing when you throw the dev hat on, where it's like you can say, hey, run this piece on the client, run this piece on the server. But it's not like the system can decide for itself. And that's what you're implying is that this
with an orchestration. Yep, that's right.
Could evaluate, I've got an MPU, or that MPU is only 10% utilization, throw this workload on, or it's a 90% utilization, chuck this to the cloud.
Yep. So everything I just described is a fantasy that I invented in a fever dream, but it makes sense to me. Of course it would, but I mean, I think, when you hear it, listen to it, whatever, it should make sense to you as well.
I'm pretty sure this whole show is a fever dream of yours.
I'm pretty sure this entire, entire 17, 18-year run has been a giant fever dream.
You've been sleeping for the last 18 years.
Yep.
Wake up, Paul.
You're going to wake up.
My Matrix dream stunk. I just worked. That's what I did.
Like Bobby from Dallas.
Why don't I fly?
How come I'm not running through a field toward a unicorn? What is this? It's weird.
All right, let's pause. Pause unless you want to do more Clipchamp.
No, that's good.
Or Champ Clip. Or Clipchamp. Chip Clamp. I really like that.
Clamp.
Really like that name. Let me see if I push this button. Does anything happen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just checking. If I push this button, does anything happen? Oh my gosh, it does. Look at that. And it's time for a commercial break. We'll get back to Windows Weekly in just a bit. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. We are, I'm still in control, which is nice. For 18 years, Paul, and you remember this because it was on this show that I got a Windows update and decided to go ahead and update it right in the middle of the show. I don't think that can happen anymore, but don't tempt me.
Just because you're only running Macs, is that why you can't have it anymore?
Well, starting tomorrow, I might have a Windows machine here.
Ooh.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
That would be very, very exciting. No, the show today brought to you by OnePassword. We're really happy to celebrate with our former sponsors, longtime sponsors, Collide, Kolide, because they were acquired by OnePassword. Remember I told you about that. And now the two together have created something brand new. It's called OnePassword Extended Access Management. Let me ask you a question. Do your end users, well, they're good, aren't they? They always work on company-owned devices. They always use IT-approved apps. They're good, aren't they? No, they're not. they shadow IT, BYOD. You know the routine. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged devices, all those unmanaged apps. 1Password's answer, brand new, extended access management. 1Password extended access management is the first security solution that takes all those unmanaged devices, all those unmanaged apps and identities, and puts them under your control. So you're safe. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected. Every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. It solves the problems that IAM, traditional IAM and MDM just can't touch. They like to liken it to the quadrangle on your college campus. You know, you can imagine this in your mind's eye, the beautiful green sward, the grass is perfectly cut, and this has these little brick paths leading from beautiful ivy-covered building to ivy-covered building, and, you know, it's just gorgeous. So those buildings and those are the company-owned devices, the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities, you know, the good stuff. And then, as at every college quadrangle, there are these dirt paths that cut right through the grass. They're the shortcuts people actually use, the straightest line from building A to building B. Those little shortcuts, those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities, people like contractors in your network. Now, most security tools, they only work on the nice little brick paths, the happy little brick paths. But, of course, where do the security problems happen? A lot of them on those dirt paths, the shortcuts. And that's why you need 1Password extended access management. It's security for the way we work today, available now to companies that use Okta. But here's the great news, and this is why I knew this 1Password Collide merger will be so exciting. Now they can expand. It's going to come later this year to Google Workspace and, yes, Microsoft Entra. Good news. Check it out. 1Password.com/Windows Weekly. That's the number 1, PASSWORD.com/Windows Weekly. 1Password.com/Windows Weekly. Thank you, 1Password, for your support of the show. And you support the show when you go to 1Password.com/Windows Weekly. Is there any way, Anthony, that I can always be in the middle? Because I kind of like being a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind being on the bottom.
The bottom's good, too.
All right.
If we jump up and down, do we push them down further? How does this work?
The tree pose.
Actually, I have a button to do that. Whoa.
Boy, what
Okay.
happens?
Back to the guys.
It's
No,
said Gilroy.
I've fallen and I can't get
Leroy.
it.
Whatever it is.
He's using all the lines now.
I guess I'm always going to have to be on the left. I guess that's just the way it works on this.
Oh, well.
I don't have a problem when you switch around. It's all good.
It's kind of fun.
I think it's all good.
I think our audience enjoys change. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So let's talk about AI as if we hadn't.
Like there's flaws in your Copilot or something.
Yeah. There's a gentleman who was a former Microsoft security architect, interestingly. Now has his own security company, so he definitely has something to sell. But he discovered, I want to say it was 15 flaws in Copilot.
Oh, man.
Which is a big deal because, when specifically
but
Copilot.
Wait, when you say a flaw in an AI, that just means it would do things that it would exceed its safety parameters, right?
There you go. Yeah. And this is important. Well, this would be important for anyone, right? But because obviously Microsoft has all these controls built in to prevent that. But in a Copilot for Microsoft 365 scenario where you're working against corporate data that is very specifically private and don't want out in the world, this can be serious. I should also point out that some of this stuff requires basic social engineering stuff, right? And so, he used AI to generate things that seemed like they were real coming from the company of some person. It seems like they were generated by Copilot itself.
Yeah,
so it was sort of believable.
You can spearfish with this.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
For whatever it's worth, he also did the right thing, which is, he went to Microsoft ahead of Black Hat and said, look, this is what I found. And he's working with them and they're fixing the problem. So he didn't document anything that someone could go now and abuse.
But then he
Copilot
still went on and did the talk and said, don't worry, Microsoft is fixing this. Like
Copilot and AI in general kind of introduces a whole new level of problem, right? So when you think about anyone being fooled by a phone call, a text message, an email, or whatever, and then revealing personal information, and on we go. This is always bad, no matter how you look at it. But
the point being, these are not buffer overflows. Not your classic bugs. This is this new class of software. They're trying to put guardrails around it, and it is hard.
Yeah. Well, if you go back to the early recall stuff, it was like, first, get a computer that's not a Copilot Plus PC.
Right.
Okay. Which is like, first, give me your administrative password. Okay. And now I've compromised your computer. See how insecure it is? Like, wait a minute. What?
Yeah, we're all doomed.
So there's a little bit of that, but then again, I mean, this in this particular case, that is how hackers are going to gain entry to systems and so forth. So I just thought it was kind of interesting on a number of levels. But the thing I guess I appreciate the most here is just that, as a former member of a former security architect at Microsoft, he knew how to do this correctly, and, meaning disclose it to Microsoft, right? So and work with them, which is the right way to do it. So I like to see that kind of thing. So that's good. Intel was going to have something they were calling Innovation Day, which I bet they regret now. That they've had to innovation is going to have to wait till next year, folks.
Not today, folks.
It's not happening this month. I believe it was going to be in San Jose or or Palo Alto or something.
One of the Silicon Valleys
in September. Yeah, one of those. Yeah, in San Francisco Bay Area. Obviously, their recent financial report wasn't fantastic. They revised their outlook for the coming year. Layoffs, cost cutting. It's not a good look for them to spend a bunch of money on something like this now. And, they have other little events that they are a part of throughout the year. And, we'll see. So tentatively, they're saying we're still going to do an Innovation Day. It will be in 2025. They haven't set a date or even a season for that. And of course, as Richard mentioned, they're launching Lunar Lake within a couple of weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And then Arrow Lake.
You really should do that at events, like it's a thing. The whole point about doing the layoffs is to have the funding to continue the marketing, that it sells the product, that keeps you a company. Like, what are you doing?
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, so one of the things that contributed to their financial difficulties is they fast ramped Lunar Lake, right? This came together much more quickly. The typical Intel cadence would have been, this probably would have happened 3 years down the road-ish. And they would have iterated on Meteor Lake, because of the need to get up to speed on MPU, especially.
So they did a double talk then, right? Like they revised architecture twice rather than changing densities.
Yeah, and as is the case with cars or anything else, when you drive it over its accepted limits, things don't always go well. So in this case, they had to overspend to make this happen, and.
I would think just like extra shifts and things, you're just pushing people to do more in less time.
Yeah, they didn't really break it down, but yeah, I mean, but the thing we see, the thing I brought up multiple times, is the fact that Meteor Lake, which was such a radical departure from the previous gen, which was the 12th and 13th Intel Core chips, is now an orphan, right? It's a one-off. They're not doing that again.
You don't see Lunar Lake as a revised version of Meteor Lake?
No, it is as radical of an architectural change as Meteor Lake was compared to what's
so they ditched the same way they ditched the P4 and revised the P3 into Duo. Mm-hmm. They've gone, okay, that was the wrong way. Yeah. We're going a different way.
Yep.
Yeah. So all the guys holding Ultras are a little upset right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my experience with these chips has been kind of mixed, frankly. But then again, most people don't really care or think about this stuff. My only concern would be that in the rush to move on, we've left these things hanging out there with, not necessarily vulnerabilities, but inefficiencies that maybe won't be patched, whatever it might be. Yeah. For example, I'm sorry.
You presume they're still going to stick with the maintenance on the chipset and so forth. Like they're not really ditching it.
Well, I mean,
you remember what happened when they did the whole RAM bus SRAM thing, where they literally said, we're going to send you kits to really fix the motherboard.
Sometime I hope to have this out by now, but sometime soon, in the next few days, I'll have this review out of that HP EliteBook 1040. which is a Meteor Lake based system. It's very similar internally, in fact, nearly identical internally to a HP laptop I reviewed a few months ago that had lots of problems, right? And they fixed a lot of the reliability issues, HP did, but they didn't fix the battery life problems. So this particular laptop, actually the battery life is very good. But you still get that, and they describe. See, they would never say like HP or any PC maker would never come out and say, "Look, Intel builds crap." So what we do is we fix that crap,
right,
and then we make it so that it's sellable, and then you can use it and not worry about it being crap. They don't say that because Intel's like their most important partner, right? Yeah. So, or one of them anyway, and. They don't say that. They would never say that. But what they did describe in great deal was all the work they did on this one computer to create something called, like a new form of hibernation. They added new sensors to it so that it can detect being in a bag, detect when you're around if the laptop lid is closed. It does all this extra stuff. And the idea is that it's in a very, I think they've done what they can do. I actually think the work they've done is pretty impressive, but it's not an elegant system architecture like you have with ARM. So I like to talk about how, open the lid, every day I smile, thing comes right on. That's not what happens with this laptop, but they're trying to get to something that's more consistent and reliable, and can emulate that in some ways, And
I don't get the sense that what they did for Meteor Lake was an extraordinary lift. I think that you are getting to an accumulation. Like it's normal to do revs on the drivers and the controls around a given chipset as the new chipset comes out. You just usually have more lead time, right? Like once upon a time, Intel pushed to these vendors sample quantities so they could build an initial machine and actually rev it for a while before the main line came in. Like it's just that Intel's been so far behind for so long. Those samples almost don't happen anymore. It's just like you're going to production, fix it, and of course we have the internet now, so fixing in production is less traumatic in theory.
There are kind of general problems with the x86 architecture or whatever, right? And it's interesting
We've cobbled a lot of crap on top of the x86 architecture.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's and Intel's jealously guarded this instruction set. They had issues with NVIDIA, actually with AMD, and also now with Qualcomm. One of the big concerns when Windows went to ARM originally, and then with Qualcomm for Windows 10 was like, well, you're not emulating this, right? Because if you are, that's our intellectual property. You need to pay for that, right? And so it's not a virtual version of an x86 processor. They can't do that legally. It's they have to do something else. So all I know is that it's interesting. HP, and I think it says a lot about the credibility of this company. Has two major examples I can think of the past 2 years, where they've taken an x86 based system and said, look, the stuff Microsoft is doing, the stuff we're getting from the hardware vendor is not enough. So we need to do special work to make this better.
Yeah. And
one of them, they actually worked with AMD on the Dragonfly Pro, which I guess was only a year ago. It feels longer ago. And they just undermined the power management system in Windows because they had to, right? And then they do the same thing here with this Meteor Lake PC and some other things based on sensors. The idea is we don't want to hot bag this thing, right? So people are going to close it, throw it in a bag, go. Yeah, it will detect that. It will shut all the way down. Well, shut down into hibernation. And hopefully what happens is you leave it sitting on a desk with the lid open. It will see you coming with the presence sensing. It will come up out of that deep sleep and go back into a normal sleep. The screen will come on. Windows Hello will kick in. And to you, walking up to the computer and just it's ready and you just use it, the experience there is good, right?
No, and you're just trying to get to a place that other vendors have been quite successful in, where I close the machine, stick it in the bag, and it doesn't try and burn a hole through the flipping bag.
I mentioned I'm trying to figure out what the time frame is for these things to go into deep sleep, mostly with the Qualcomm chips, and I still haven't figured it out. But like this particular laptop, I know if I leave it closed overnight and I come on, there's a little bit of a boot like you used to get with hibernation. So it's not full from dead boot, but it takes in total 10 seconds maybe or whatever it is. But if it's within a couple of hours, it just goes into that light sleep. And so you open it up and it kind of comes on. And it's still Intel based. So it's like whatever. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's okay. But, I drove to Washington, D.C. It's normally a 3.5 hour drive. I closed it, put it in the bag. I'm like, hopefully it's okay. And this was Hurricane Debbie, raining, awful. It took 4.5 hours. checked in, got up to the room, and I opened it up, and it came on. It didn't go into the deep sleep, like it was fine. It wasn't warm. It wasn't.
That was just because it was being jostled, being in the car, right?
It had a good day.
I thought it was, yeah,
yeah. I mean, So sometimes it's great, and sometimes but that HP had to do that work, So that's good for them. But it's and this is what I mean when I say, like, the thing I'm worried about is not everyone does that as it is, and now that we're moving on to Lunar Lake and then beyond, these things are just going to sit out there, and whatever inefficiencies they have, whatever power management issues, if it's a portable computer, whatever battery life problems it may have, those are, depending on the company you bought it from, probably not going to be fixed. That's my concern.
I know. I think it's a reasonable concern, and a conversation going on in Discord about how much is Windows, how much is Intel. It's like, listen, they both have the same problem, which is decades of bolt-ons of more and more and more. When you have a dog long enough, you and the dog start to resemble each other. That's Microsoft and Intel, or Windows and Intel, right? It's hard to know where one begins and the other one ends, and they've both been co-evolving. Right. And Windows has been optimized for the architecture, for good or bad. I mean, it's the way it is, right? Yeah. But they've been playing this game with each other for a long time. And, both are reaping the consequences of, and it's not like Intel hasn't tried to get away from x86, right? But every time they do, it goes terribly.
Yep.
Right. Itanium wasn't good.
By the way, I never wrote about this. There was a flurry of news over the past couple of days, so I'm kind of backlogged here. But one of the little things that came out of Intel's financial filings, probably in a 10Q or something, they gave up their investment in ARM.
Right.
So they're it's interesting because I believe they have an agreement for, well, what would they have an agreement for with ARM? They have an agreement with at least one ARM chip maker to do fab work for them someday in the future. Maybe it's even Qualcomm. But they are an ARM licensee, but it's like a Netflix subscription. I mean, it runs out at some point, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what's going on there. It's almost like they've decided, like, look, we're gonna do a hybrid architecture, or multiple hybrid architectures that are inspired by, as we say, ARM. But we're not going to do ARM.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well,
I wish them all the best of luck.
The real question is, if they started doing ARM, were they just becoming another fabricator, just another fab, rather than?
Why did they invest in ARM? What was the?
I don't even know. I think it was. I don't remember. I threw the headline aside so I could look at it later. I haven't looked at it, but it was
the same thing. It seems like a minor story.
Yeah, but I do think it's notable, right? I mean, it's not coincidental that, well, maybe they just wanted to cash in. That was the blurb. If they had just held on to it, they would have had
a little longer,
like $40 million or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right.
And but that's the case with any investment, I guess, or many investments.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
it's always the ones you sell that go up after you sell them, right? Well done.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, Intel sold the stock. Good. Let's drive it up.
Yeah, up it goes.
So Google had a big event yesterday, and I got to say, I kind of went into this. I wasn't super. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you about. So I wasn't super. I mean, everything leaked. It's like, okay, how exciting could this be? But honestly, for all their kind of post Bing / Copilot missteps, and they have been that kind of step on the rake company for the past year and a half, 2 years, whatever. I thought this event was really great. I thought they did a kind of a fun job of making AI seem a little bit real, like in the same way that Apple Intelligence, even though it's so far out, they show some kind of pragmatic stuff, like here's what you can do with it. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. And of course, their stuff is all coming out in the next 3-4 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I thought that went over. I thought that went over pretty well. But did you buy? That's what I wanted to ask. Did you buy a phone?
We haven't bought it yet. No, but talking to the boss. But we're both on 6s. I think she's got a 6.
Yeah, you do.
So we're due, and mine definitely has taken enough rads now that it's getting weirder.
Yep.
Rads.
So that's a.
What do you?
I didn't think I was going to
take it up to the sun.
No, I fly 400 plus hours a year, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like stuff cooks on me all the time.
That's really interesting. So the more you fly, you think the more vulnerable your phone. Like,
not just my phone, right?
All your electronics?
I lose SD cards regularly. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting.
Some stuff's more fragile than others. But
you literally fly too close to the sun. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, I'm at the same line as airline pilots for the amount of flying that I do, where pilots are only allowed a certain number of hours a year, and I think it's like 450, and I'm right in that number.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm surprised you've held on to that for so long.
I didn't see anything that really impressed me, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think the design now.
And generally, I wait until they're done. Like, this phone's getting close to done.
This is a good time to get into it because we're kind of late in this. We're 4 years into Tensor. It's supposed to be kind of a minor hardware upgrade, but of course, a lot more RAM this gen, which you need for AI.
The new Tensor.
I think
I really like the design decisions. Like, I don't like the 6.8s; they're too damn big, right? I like the 6.3, but I hate that they always cut features, and they didn't this time.
No, they didn't. Which, by the way, they haven't. They said it was the first time ever. That's not true. The very first Pixel did this. It was big and small. Yeah, not Pro and not Pro. It was Pro.
I'm almost tempted by the Fold, honestly.
Yeah, it's Yep, I know. It's
Marquez liked the Fold, and that surprised me because Marquez doesn't like Folds.
Yeah. I like the little kind of passport form factor of the last one, but then again, now they've kind of cut the difference between them and the really tall Samsung thing. So it feels like more of a phone when it's folded.
I got the Flip. I kind of like the.
That's Flip.
Yeah, I thought my wife would want that because it's
small, right?
Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, she's like, no, I want the big one.
This is the 8 next to it. And I like it. But and the thing that Google's doing, Samsung's doing, and Apple rumoredly is doing is making these much thinner.
Yeah, right.
So because that's the problem with the Fold, is that it's just a big wedge in your pocket.
It looks like the Nintendo DS or something, or whatever.
It does,
right?
I like this because I could just put it in my.
I know. I think it's cool, and I like how they're using the outside displays in fun ways, useful ways, I guess. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. So I did order a 9 Pro XL, which kind of matches in size to the 8 Pro.
Yep.
A little bigger, but the same basically.
Yeah.
So RAM, whatever. The thing that's interesting is that if you do have a Pixel, I will say this is before the end of the month is the time to do this because they're giving bigger than normal trade-in values if you buy from Google.
Yeah.
And I got $700 for my phone. So you have this $1,100 phone.
Yeah, the trade-ins are actually
$700 trade-in, right?
Yeah.
Now, my phone is mint, so I'm not worried about that. But they give you a $200 Google Store credit on a future purchase, which you could use for a case, earbuds, whatever. They give you a year of Gemini, whatever it's called, with 2 terabytes of Google One. That's 120, 200, whatever that is. And then I am a Google One customer now, so I get like 10% off the purchase. I'm not saying it pays for itself. I'm not, stupid, but it's like up there. It's not that they're not giving me money, but I'm out of
You're not
pocket.
spending that much on a new phone.
Not for a brand new flagship phone. That's incredible. So it kind of made it a no-brainer for me. Of course, I have a Pixel problem, so I'm justifying things here.
No, but I think that's exactly why they do that, right? Samsung does the same thing.
Yes, they do.
Very generous trade-ins,
and it keeps you in the system. Right?
It sends you to be not Richard.
Apple does it too.
Get a new one every year instead.
If you look at trade-in values, the Apple stuff is like, oh, that's great, and then you look at Samsung, like, what did I buy? Like a plastic piece of junk? What is this thing?
This Flip cost me like a couple $100 because I had the old one.
Yeah, and that's and next year when it comes time, you're going to be like, of course I'm going to get another Samsung. It's where I'm going to get the most value for this thing.
I think it's smart of them.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that
it's smart
doing the same thing because I bought this on Google Fi.
Yeah. Oh,
so if I want to get a Pixel,
you got to be careful because it's like I found a wireless carrier I'd like to switch to. It's like hold on a second there. That becomes a problem.
Yeah.
But it's easy with a phone to justify over 2 years or plus whatever you're doing. Say, look, what is this thing per month? $30, $40? I guess in the case of the Fold, it could be $50. It gets up there. But this is a device we all use all day, every day. It's not hard to justify. I'm surprised you're not ordering it right now, Richard. But if you were ordering it right now, which one do you think you would get?
I'd probably get the Small Pro.
Small Pro.
It's the form factor that I like, and I suspect the boss would get the bigger one because she's the photograph junkie, and she'll want the telephoto and all that good stuff. So,
well, the small,
I think the small one's got it too.
I think the small Pro has the same. It has the same camera. Yeah, it should be good. Yep.
It's interesting. I don't know if Google's doing this, but what Apple did with their intelligence is they said it'll run on the 15 Pro Max, but not on the 15.
It'll run.
So but Google implied that this not only would run on the new stuff, but is going to be filtered down to the older phones, didn't they?
Well, they've always done that with individual features, right? So one of the problems is if you buy this phone now because you're like, oh, I can hear the three, like add me and whatever those features are, they're only on the 9 series, whatever. And then December comes, it's like, oh, we're bringing it to 8. And then April, like, we're bringing it to 7, or however it works, right?
Well, and the other thing, and I mentioned this during our, we covered the Google event yesterday, Jeff Jarvis and I. You can watch that on twit.tv/nice. What we mentioned is that it's never a good idea to buy a Pixel when it first comes out because they almost immediately discount it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, well, but
unless you want the trade-in, because I think the trade-ins go away.
The special deals. Google Fi has their own things too. Between now, I think it's just the end of the month, 28th or whatever the date is. It's actually, I would, if you're thinking about it, I would look at it. I would just look at it.
I'm just going to see 2 issues. One is I got an older phone. The second is I'm in a different country. Man, there's some complexity.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, so, I'm curious how that works out for you, but
Well, when you live in Canada and you live close to the border, you learn to keep a mailbox on the other side too. So I can just get it delivered to the mailbox. But like Google Fi is not available in Canada. You can be sneaky with trying to do it through your mailbox and so forth, but they will abruptly cut you off if they figure out you're in Canada.
Would you get connectivity? I mean,
because you're running in international mode. But now because
that's why they don't like it,
because Canada will find Google.
Well, there's also the cross-border taxation and
none of this is as simple as you think. Yeah. So,
I haven't run into this problem in Mexico yet, but electronics are super, super expensive there. So I always fly with I don't bring clothes anymore. They're all there. I fly with speakers and laptops and, electronics and stuff.
You got to learn to just leave that stuff behind.
No, I do. That's what I'm doing. It's a one-way trip.
You're slowly equipping things.
Yeah. Pretty soon, like everything I own will be there, and then I won't.
I know I've gotten a lot of flack for back in the day when I often traveled with 2 laptops, and I'd certain countries they'd see they have 2 laptops. It's like, you're selling one of these. It's like, look at it. I have owned it for a while. It is full of crumbs. It's my machine. I'm not. I
have a friend who ran into this the one time he visited us in Mexico City, which amuses me to no end because this has never happened to me, and I've flown there like 20 times. But I do dread that day, and the only thing I will be able to present the email from the company that said, "Would you like to review this product?" and say, "See, I'm not. This is for work. And we'll see how that goes down." But if you don't hear from me for a couple of days, it went poorly.
If you just have something for 2 weeks, it doesn't. You gotta use it.
No, I use it usually I go a month usually with my.
But there's the border guards are looking for people who are squirrely, right? And when you just get annoyed with them. Like I've pulled that one when they were grinding me on a machine. It's like, if you really want to take that machine, I need your info because I need to tell Microsoft you took it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Right. Like, and that changes their minds. Then it's like before you do that, maybe you should go get your supervisor because this is going to go badly for you.
Does that work, by the way? I just like to try that.
I bet it doesn't work as well in Mexico, but I can see that working in most places. Yeah.
Those guys, they're tough. There's
2 things you need to understand about border guards. First, they wanted to be cops and they failed. So they're just not that bright. And the second is
that makes them mean.
They have to follow a very specific set of rules. And if you know how to trigger those rules, you make their lives more and more difficult.
Are you suggesting they're not people person?
So you're basically hacking them.
Well, I've learned how to add paperwork to their day.
This is good. And by the way, this does not work on CPV.
The other form of paperwork you could add to their day is just slip them a 20 and you'll probably be fine.
Don't do that. That's really a problem. They're under cameras. Yeah. And I've seen it on their faces when you say the wrong phrase with just like, that's new paperwork. Then they're sad because they don't want to do paperwork, right?
Mm-hmm. No one does.
No.
And somebody's saying you're going to be put on a list. Listen, I'm on the list. I've been on a lot of lists.
I'm pretty sure I'm on the list.
I've been secondaried more than you even want to know. Remember, I ran a campaign building developer communities in the Middle East. Like I had all the stamps.
They see that on your passport. That's
a lot of time interrogation. I could show you the spreadsheets. I timed how long it took me to get out of the room.
I went to Israel, and I still worry about that. Like 20 years later.
It's fine. But you just learn to be patient. One thing I've learned is that they're not prepared for you to be bored. That's the one thing they can't cope with. It's like, I am not frightened by you. I am not in a hurry. I have high status on the airline. They will hold the plane for me or get me another one. Whatever you want to do, let's do it. Well, I'm fine.
I don't mean to say I eagerly await the day, but I know someday I am going to be pulled aside in Mexico City, and I'm just curious how it's going to go.
Like I said, friend,
patience, not a virtue. We'll see.
Yeah. Now, and angry American is is a good trope. They'll probably recognize that.
Yeah, I'm going to be on TV. I'll be like the guy with my shorts are going to be around my ankles, and I'm going to be walking around raving like a lunatic, and they're going to be like, "Please just leave."
But I can show you the spreadsheet I kept when I've got pulled into secondary interrogation rooms, because it happened dozens of times. And the fastest way out of that room was to doze, because some guy's trying to watch me to see that if I'm sweating and I'm literally falling asleep, that gets old fast.
Yeah. I was pulled in with a woman one time in Denver, and she freaked out in a way that I couldn't find a clean way to say this on a show like this, but it was unbelievable, her response to these people. And they just looked at me and were like, all right, you can go.
We got our
and it was just her
being
a woman and freaking on them. And I was like,
so is this the one? Is this where you get SSS and you get an extra search?
That's what it was in my case.
But it sounds like Richard's like getting some sort of.
No, that's different. Yeah, this was.
He's like going to airplane jail.
Yeah, no, I've just
jail.
You think of the room you're thinking of, right? Metal table bolted to the floor, chair bolted in front of it, light overhead, one-way mirror in front of you.
Papers, please.
I've been in dozens of them, mostly American ones.
Why you? Well, that's the thing. I think the way that I always thought because I used to go to Canada once a month, remember, for years.
Yeah.
The Canadians were tough but fair, but I am scared of the U.S. Border Patrol. I shouldn't even say this out loud. Because they seem to have unlimited powers.
They seem to, but the reality is you're a citizen. That's unlimited power. They cannot deny you access.
I don't want to
They can make it miserable, but they cannot deny you access.
Okay. So you bought a Pixel Pro, Paul.
Yep.
XL. You got the big one. Mm-hmm. Richard and his wife are thinking about the little Pixel 9.
To be clear, if it was up to me, I'd already have one ordered. Right? But there's some negotiating that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And then
I actually fight my wife. She wants me to buy everything.
No. Your wife does.
Yeah, because she says it's your job. And I said, I don't want it, though. I don't.
Interesting.
I don't want it.
I usually go into like a lengthy, I almost make a PowerPoint presentation to justify my purchases. And she's like, what are you doing? I don't care.
You could share
just
that.
Do it. You know what you're doing. Just do it.
It's your job, Paul.
Yeah,
it's your job, Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I
am surprised at how much hoops Apple is taking to deliver AI. Like, we're used to Apple saying, hey, we're doing this. Here it is. It's done.
They're afraid.
I think they're having problems. I think they overcommitted. They knew they had to do that. They had this.
There's so much drama around this company.
It's weird.
I also think they're afraid.
I was talking to Mike before one of the shows when he was doing it, and he was saying, he's like, oh, you guys have all this like actual news and everything, it's or like, you fill, if there is a news, you kind of fill the time with like how to stuff, whatever.
We got nothing.
And he's like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You have like a new rumor every 10 seconds. You spend 1 year dealing with rumors about the next release, and then 3 months before that happens, we're talking about the one after that.
So somebody in one of our chats, I think on YouTube, a few minutes ago said, oh my gosh, Mark Gurman just dropped a bomb. And I'm going, oh crap, does this mean I have to go look and see what the latest Apple rumor is? And you want to know what the rumor was?
What?
Apple's going to release a new HomePod with a robotic arm.
I saw that. Yeah. Sure. It's going to come out right after the car.
Yeah.
With a robot. What? Your drink, sir? But it's attached to the counter.
Maybe it's they have a bunch of those old iMacs left over, and they need something to do with the reticulating arm thing they had.
So as you read on, the robotic arm is there to turn the screen, but it's like, what do you need Amazon has one. The screen
probably
just turns
follows
by
you
itself.
around the room. I'm sure part of the deal is it does a presence sensing thing, right?
You think it moves around the room?
No, I think it turns toward you.
No, but the Alexa does that without an arm. It follows you.
Yeah, but Apple doesn't make crap like Alexa. They make really cool.
But it's good. It's actually my favorite.
You can't charge $300, $500, whatever it's going to be. It's going to
Apple's going to charge $1,000.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, okay, fair enough. Like slap an iPod Mini on a HomePod. Let's go. It's not rocket science. Just like what's so difficult about this?
They have 1,000 people working on it.
It would be 1 million people would buy that. They'd buy one for their kitchen, one for their bedroom, one for the bathroom. Are you kidding me?
It'll be as successful as Apple TV.
You know they'll buy it. You know I'll buy it.
Yeah, I'll buy it too. Who cares? Like they'll sell millions of them.
Yep.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
Okay.
I just can't wait for the iPhone Air. That's what I'm holding out for now.
Well, that's supposedly next year, the slim, extra slim. We'll see.
Yep. Yeah, sure. That sounds like a terrific Apple product. It lines right up.
Let me pause the celebration momentarily as we continue on. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell and Windows Weekly. It is my honor to be telling you about our sponsor for this segment of the show, and a good sponsor she is. She's been with us for a long time. Melissa, the data quality expert since 1985. Whether you need the full white glove service or just the nuts and bolts, Melissa is the best for your enterprise. What does it do? Oh, well, what does she do? Melissa has helped over 10,000 businesses worldwide. If I say she, it sounds like there's an actual person named Melissa. It's a company, okay? And I'm sure there are probably people who work at Melissa named Melissa. So Melissa has helped over 10,000 businesses worldwide harness accurate data with their industry-leading solutions. Get this number, processing over 1 trillion with a T addresses, emails, names, and phone records. 1 trillion. You could take advantage of Melissa's data cleansing plugins for leading CRM applications. They've got Clean Suite for Salesforce. They've got Clean Suite for Microsoft Dynamics CRM, Listware, Express Entry Desktop. So it's tuned for that specific application. It integrates so tightly into it that you get all the benefits of Melissa and their address verification without leaving the app. G2 continually recognizes Melissa. Most recently, they just were given the Leader of Summer 2024. That's a good title. I'd like that title. They're also a leader in small. I got a few of them here. You ready? Leader in small business, best ROI. They were best high performer, momentum leader, fastest implementation, easiest admin, best meets requirements. Wow. Melissa's services use secure encryption for all file transfers and an information security system built on ISO 27001 framework. That's important because your data is very valuable, right? Melissa protects it like it's their own. They also adhere to GDPR and they maintain SOC 2 compliance. So no fear on that account. Melissa offers transparent pricing too for its services, which is really nice. No guesswork. You can estimate your business budget and know exactly what it's going to cost. Everybody should be doing this because bad data costs money. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. MELISSA. Melissa.com/twit. We thank Melissa so much for their support of Windows Weekly. Couldn't do it without you, Melissa.
Winders.
People are saying, you're sliding in and out all the time, Leo. But I just don't want them to see me dozing. This isn't the airport jail, right? So I slide myself out so that you guys can...
I just want to say why the dozing thing works, bad guys aren't bored, right? In the end,
you're not nervous.
Those guys' jobs is looking for bad guys. You're not a bad guy.
Yeah, just never let them see you sweat. That's the rule. Yeah. Or shift uncomfortably as if you might have something.
That's just my wallet.
Continue on, gentlemen, please.
This doesn't bear too much discussion, but the UK CMA is investigating Amazon's partnership with Anthropic for anti-competitive reasons, similar to Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI, blah blah, whatever. I guess they're the Burger King to Microsoft's McDonald's in this situation. I don't know.
Yeah, are they doing it because they're actually concerned, or because they want to be seen as being fair? Like, I don't even know.
I'm just going to say yep. Because it's hard to say, right? I don't know. I don't.
An investigation doesn't mean any culpability. It's just like you should scrutinize these things.
I don't know. I mean, Microsoft OpenAI is concerning because
the relationship is very
what
deep.
The companies are, and
control level.
Relationship is really screwy. Yep. Anthropic, I think most people would be like, who?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when apprised of who they are, they'd be like, why? So I don't know. I guess, look, it's responsible. You should look at all these things, I guess, but this doesn't seem.
You got a limited number of resources. There are some very obvious things you should be looking at. I don't know this is one of them.
Yep, I agree. But, it's a little island. They got to do something. I don't know. I just don't know.
The laughing stock thing bothers them. Maybe, I don't know. Man.
Yeah, I could see with it. Yeah. So see if I can confuse everybody. This year, Microsoft has been beta testing something called Visual Studio 2022 17.11. Mm-hmm. This is the version of Visual Studio I've been using with .NET 9 Preview over the first 6 preview releases to do my app work. And over a 24-hour period, Microsoft, the developer parts of the company, announced a bunch of stuff. And one of them was that 17.11 is now generally available. So if you're on the stable channel in Visual Studio, you'll get that upgrade. And the next day, they announced the 17.12 is going into first preview. So now, and if you want to develop for .NET 9 in preview, you should move on to that. The way they didn't say this explicitly, but my understanding is that, based on the language, is this will probably ship day and date or very soon, or adjacent to .NET 9, which we know is coming in November.
Yep.
Right?
Every year.
Yeah.
Want it or not.
Yep. And then I was literally up until 2:00 in the morning last night working on some developer stuff, and I randomly said, I wonder. It seems like it's been a while since there's been a .NET 9 preview. I wonder if there was one recently. And there was one it's like 6 hours before I checked.
Wow, that's spooky.
Yeah, which is really weird, right? So I keep looking for another WPF update of some kind, and there is nothing. So preview 5, 6, and now 7 have all arrived with whatever. Not for me. So I keep looking, nothing. But that's out. If you are a developer or interested in .NET 9, there is a 7th preview out now, which you can get. And if you're using Visual Studio, which you almost certainly are.
Yeah, and we'll probably go to release. We'll probably get a release candidate in September and an RC2 in October if they think they need one. And then you'll go final.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this is probably the last preview version before the RC starts.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yep.
So, and that usually means new features stop.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it must be on a 3-week something based on timing. I think the first preview is probably February to kind of do the...
Yeah.
Well, actually, that could be 4 weeks. I don't know what it is.
It's somewhere in that neighborhood, and they slow down over the summer. Like it's not exact, and they speed up in the fall.
I want more clarity than I'm getting there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
That
of
went better
teams
than I
involved,
thought it was
Paul.
going to. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. WPF is not bound to .NET 9, right? It's WPF's its own stack. It's part of the Win SDKs.
Right. Where are we? Oh, yes. All right, some antitrust stuff. Yeah. So the biggest news this past week, most certainly, was that the U.S. government, rather that a U.S. court, a federal court, has found Google guilty of being an illegal monopoly. And an illegal monopoly means you have a monopoly, so they've stated that, and you are abusing it, either to maintain it or to get it, in this case, to maintain it. And one of the things they've done wrong, which we've discussed, is they pay Apple $20-something billion a year to be exclusive default search on the iPhone. Yeah. Turns out that's illegal. Who knew?
Weird.
Is it?
It's not like it's been a secret.
It's not a bribe.
Well, it's sort of a bribe. I mean, yeah. So the ruling is incredible. I think it's 186 pages long. I still haven't gotten through all of it. It's very well done, well written, etc. Okay. I mean, I don't think many people would debate whether Google has a monopoly in search. And, of course, the question then turns to, well, so what are we going to do to fix this? And that was not addressed the day of the ruling, but there is going to be a hearing in early September where the two sides are going to come in front of the judge and kind of hash out a schedule. But the next step is that the government will make a proposal for its remedy or remedies that they would like to see. And one of them that's on the table, by the way, is breaking up the company, which isn't as far-fetched. Everyone seems to have a real knee-jerk reaction to that for obvious reasons, but that doesn't mean what I think a lot of people think it means. It's more of a divestiture of assets that, they're abusing to maintain the search monopoly. So in the case of search, like the component pieces of the company that would prop this thing up, obviously the advertising business would be the big one, but also Chrome, which was created for this specific purpose, and even perhaps Android, right? So combination of those, maybe.
This is often likened to what the DOJ was thinking of doing to Microsoft and ended up not doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
they ordered Microsoft to break up into an operating system company and an everything else company. Like that's
I think
the question is what
they
was
didn't
the
do
line?
it. Because
they negotiated a consent decree,
right?
But it was because of some unethical behavior on the part of the judge.
Plea bargained it out.
Well, no, but that came later. That came a couple of years later. I mean, so they eventually did settle. But the thing you got to remember, a couple of things happened here that are big. One was the judge was found to have behaved improperly. He was taken off the case. That didn't vacate his findings of fact, by the way, nor did it technically eradicate his order for Microsoft to be broken up. But
it's funny. I don't remember this. What did he do wrong?
He talked to the press during the proceedings and behind closed doors that didn't disclose that, which you're not supposed to do anyway. But and was very negative about very opinionated about Microsoft. Yeah,
interesting.
So there was a bias there that this is apparently not allowed by there's some judicial conduct
makes sense
rule of law, whatever it is.
Yeah. You can give Apple $20 billion, but you can't talk to the press. That's the key.
Yeah. Right. I mean, Apple doesn't talk to the press either, so I don't see what the problem is. But
I'm being facetious,
but the other things that happened was there was an election. So a Democrat went out, Republican came in. That Department of Justice was not as inclined.
So I didn't realize it was that close to having Microsoft break up. Dvorak
always said
it would
never
be a good thing for Microsoft.
That didn't go away because of the judge. Like it went away because of some other things. Like I said, so 9/11 happened, right? So after 9/11. I think the federal government had some bigger priorities. They looked at Microsoft in that perspective, and they were like, you know what? Let's figure this out.
But they may have also realized that, and this is the big problem with all of these kinds of actions, they work so slowly through the courts that it didn't survive the administration that had brought the. You got to remember that the Clinton administration tried twice to go after him, after Microsoft, with the FTC first, and then in the early 90s or earlier in the 90s, and then again with the DOJ. DOJ court case was incredibly successful. The thing is, like, a lot of people look back on that and they think, well, Microsoft won. I mean, they got everything knocked out. It's like, hold on a second. None of the findings of fact were vacated. Those are legal facts. So the Microsoft, the consent decree actually required Microsoft to undergo an incredible series of behavioral changes. They had an ombudsman inside Microsoft reviewing everything they did, right?
For a decade.
And also just changed the way they create products too. Like,
One would argue
to bundle and keep third parties out and all this stuff. So there was actually a lot to it. I mean, it sounds.
I think there's a chance in hell that Google would be broken up.
Yeah, I do actually. Wow. I really do. Yep.
Wow.
Because we could look at AT&T as the obvious example of something like this happening where it's hard to express to people. Like, people have a hard time understanding this. They look at Google, they're like, wow, but the search engine is so great. But the thing you don't understand, the thing that it's hard to understand this, is the innovation that doesn't occur because this one company has a stranglehold and they're concerned for their business, not for these other awesome things that could happen. So
I think it's very clear that Google is, for instance, Google's ownership of YouTube completely pollutes their search. The fact that Google is selling and buying advertising on this at the same time is clearly a conflict of interest. So, and honestly, I would love to see a Google search that was untainted by advertising interests, that was untainted by interests in promoting their own services. It would be a much better search. But would it be a viable company?
Right. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where the DOJ lands. They're talking to Google's competitors and partners. They're talking to industry experts. They're trying to, like, what does this look like? How does this make sense? So one of the things that could come out, you could open up. One of the things you could do is say, well, okay, but now we're going to force Google to open up their search to third parties in the same way that we forced Microsoft to open up their middleware interfaces in Windows and Windows Server, right? And we'll see. Like, the goal here is to allow that innovation to happen, to allow competition to happen, and to allow the natural byproducts of those things, which are better and less expensive products and services, right? So, we'll see. This, by the way, this doesn't always work. It's not like it's like a magic wand and everything's fine. But
you were talking about the AT&T breakup, but they gradually rolled back up again over 20 years. That was a geographical breakup.
Nothing is
business unit breakup.
Yeah. But because that happened in the, that did, honestly, it led to the internet as we now know it in many ways too. I mean, it's, you introduce competition, the prices go down. It did benefit consumers. We'll see. I'm fascinated to see what comes out of this.
I'm interested in what their model looks like. Obviously, it would be a business unit carve up. But when you argue that the proof of the monopolistic behavior was paying to be exclusive on search,
well, that was a proof,
right?
Right. I mean, there's all this stuff. There's so much to this. That's the thing. It is a very lengthy ruling. The parallel, one of the kind of general parallels between Apple and Google today, and Google and Microsoft in the past, is that when you have a monopoly, it allows you to behave like there are no competitors, because there aren't, right? That matter. In other words, that the introduction of a new competitor or the introduction of new features from an existing competitor do not change what you do in the slightest.
Right.
You have a monopoly. That's one of the ways, because you just don't have to react to normal business activities, right? Because you don't have a normal business, you have a monopoly.
Yeah, the question here is, who is the Brad Smith in this equation? When does a grown-up
let me tell you something. They don't have a Brad Smith
because they've done a terrible job.
Yeah, they're not as belligerent as Apple, but are as belligerent as, say, Microsoft was back in the day, pre-Brad Smith Microsoft. Their current guy is Kent Walker. He is, fight it till the death kind of a
you've watched what they've done with the whole news payment thing around the world.
Well, okay, actually,
belligerence has worked for them.
Yeah, it's belligerence as a service. It's one of the tiers of Gemini. It's belligerence, Gemini belligerence. So it's I don't know. I will see. So one of the things we're about to talk about is Google, or Apple rather, has been incredibly malicious in their so-called compliance with the DMA, right? They've gone kicking and screaming into this in a way that is almost an art form. It's incredible, right? And that said, every once in a while, there's like a little chip in that armor, and like this, just today.
The whole Epic battle was a part of that.
Epic is a beautiful example. Spotify, those guys are probably on equal footing, Epic and Spotify, just the way Apple's trampling all over them. Apple makes changes to their App Store rules to adhere to the DMA, but they're just as in violation of the DMA as their old rules, blah, 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 whatever. So they, just in the past 24 hours, have announced that Spotify can communicate with their own customers in their own app. Thank you. 5 years after
how
Spotify,
generous of you, Mr. Cook.
Yeah. Well, Spotify, I don't know how long they were talking to Apple behind the scenes, but 5 years ago launched this complaint with the EU. Like, what's going on here? We just want to point them to a sale or something. Like, why can't we talk to our own customers? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And now they're just doing it. But the list of things that has happened since then is incredible and includes the EU creating the DMA because of this kind of behavior.
Right.
It's like several EU investigations, the creation of 2 sets of antitrust laws, what's the other one called? The DSA? I don't deal with the other one too much, but the DMA as well. 2 rounds of Apple complying, but not really, just kidding, rejecting Spotify's app redesign that included the feature that the EU told Apple they had to allow.
Yep.
$2 billion in fines. And now we wake up on a sunny day in August, 5 years later, and they're like, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, fine.
What the heck is going on?
Yeah,
it's crazy,
so
right? The other one, this one isn't as long-lived, and there isn't like a single big market player that kind of stands there like Epic or Spotify. But 3-ish years ago, the EU went to Apple with a complaint and said, we've investigated you for not allowing competing wallets to use the NFC hardware in the iPhone. Only Apple's wallet can use it. And that's been, a couple of years go by. There were some indications late last year that maybe Apple's going to make some concessions. And then one day in July, about a month ago, the EU Commission dropped its investigation after Apple agreed to open up NFC to third-party developers. And today they announced that will be coming out in iOS 18.1, so sometime between September and the end of the year.
Right.
So we have a kind of a rough time frame. The interesting thing with this one, though, is that unlike most of its other, pushback concessions, this one's going to be worldwide, right? Mm-hmm. So the Spotify concession, where they can actually talk to their own customers and say, hey, we're having a sale, or click here to go to our website. You don't have to pay Apple. That's only in the EU. That's one of the little belligerent things that Apple's doing. Like even when they're forced to adhere to this, they're like, well, we'll just do it in the EU.
Yeah, they're the ones with the way, right? This is like Windows N.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but their NFC change is coming worldwide. So, not saying it's perfect.
I don't know how you restrict it. Man, I don't think they're doing it willingly. So it's like, how would you restrict that?
Dude, listen, some of the changes they're making in the DMA, some of the things that have come up are, I am a developer. I work for a multinational company. We sell our product in the EU, but also in the United States and elsewhere. I live in Montana or wherever, New York, doesn't matter. Oh, well, you can't work on that software then because you have to be in the EU, right? I mean, it's like, guys, it's Microsoft is not perfect. In fact, I think I built a career to try to prove that to people, but they typically, not always, and this is maybe a Brad Smith thing, when they are forced to do something like the GDPR is a great example, data sovereignty stuff, are like, look, it doesn't make sense for us to have different rules for every country or every region. Yeah. Something like the GDPR. You know what? We're just going to adhere to that everywhere. It's just easier to do that. It's easier for us. It's less money.
No, it absolutely is. And so when you range it, when you limit it like that, it's because you want to punish the customer, so hopefully they'll speak to their government, right? And the Windows N thing, and I think this Teams thing sort of falls into the same ballpark. It's like, all right, you're protecting your citizens. Let's see how much your citizens like your protection.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe I am mistaken, when they pulled Teams out of Microsoft 365, that was worldwide too, wasn't it? I think it was.
No, that was EU.
It was just EU?
Yeah.
Okay.
In that case, you have an EU tenant, right? Like there's a clear, if it's an EU tenant, this is the rule.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all terrible. I think I've made that point, right? These companies are all terrible. There's no good one. There's no surprise, actually. It's like, the Far Side.
Were you looking for the kinder, gentler tech giant? I'm sorry.
Like the South Park movie, they're down in hell, and the guy's like, I have a question, which religion was right? And he's like, oh, that was Mormon. They're like, damn it. Like they all chose wrong. It's like, there's no good big tech company, right? They're all terrible. They're all terrible. That's the thing, the power thing we talked about. I mean, with great power comes great abuse.
I found the announcement from Microsoft. It's only for regions in the EEA. And Switzerland, that they are pulling Teams. You can have a separate Teams offering. They started it on April 1st, 2024, because April Fool's Day is a good day to do that sort of thing.
Yep. So I don't know. Geez, this is just everything is terrible, I think, is the theme. And whatever. But we, with Apple, all you can hope for are these little minor half step forward victories. And we got 2 of them today, which is kind of a special day on that note or whatever. I mean, it's still violating the DMA to an egregious way, which would be comical if it wasn't so terrible. But there you go.
All right, let's take a teensy weensy, and when we come back, it's Xbox time for all. Our show today brought to you by Lookout. Not a big tech company, just a good tech company. Every company today, big or small, is a data company, right? And that means every company's at risk, because where's your data live? All over the place. Cyber threats, breaches, leaks, these are the new norm, and cyber criminals grow more sophisticated by the minute. At a time when boundaries no longer exist, what it means for your data to be secure has really fundamentally changed, and that's why you need Lookout. Whether on a device, in the cloud, across networks, working remotely at the local coffee shop, Lookout gives you clear visibility into all your data at rest and in motion. You can monitor, assess, and protect without sacrificing productivity and employee satisfaction for security. With a single unified cloud platform, Lookout simplifies and strengthens, reimagining security for the world that will be today. So, Visit lookout.com right now to learn how to safeguard your data, secure hybrid work, reduce IT complexity. Lookout.com. LOOKOUT. Lookout.com. We thank them so much for their support of the Windows Weekly program. We really appreciate it. Paul Thurrott in Macungie, PA. Richard Campbell in Madeira Park, BC. I think, oh joy, it's time to talk Xbox.
Yeah. This could have been a tip. I don't know when this ends. Maybe someone out there does. But QuakeCon was last year. It was in person again. So people like carting their PCs around, hooking up to Ethernet cables and deathmatch.
That sounds like fun. That sounds awesome.
So Quake is obviously an id Software game. id Software is owned by Bethesda, and Bethesda is owned by who, everybody? Right, Microsoft.
Oh.
So
ZeniMax, which then owns by
ZeniMax, which is owned by, yes. So there's a big sale. As we speak right now, that sale is still going on. It's everywhere you can buy their games. It's not every single one of the games. So it's most of the games, a lot of the games. So if you're on Steam or Epic, Xbox, wherever, like these things, you should go look. This is worth looking at. This is the Doom games, the Quake games, the Wolfenstein games, a bunch of stuff.
Fallout?
Yeah, there's a Fallout. Well, was there a Fallout? I'm not sure if Fallout's on sale, but there was a Fallout announcement. Fallout 76 is getting a new update soon. There's a bunch of announcements around stuff.
The saddest version of Fallout.
Yeah. Well, maybe it needs the most love. I don't know. But
definitely needs something. I think finishing writing it would have been good.
Wow. One of the things, it's not like a George R.R. Martin type problem, but I hear you. So one of the things they did, which is kind of interesting, going back to the original Doom, so OG Doom and Doom 2 from 93, 94, if I'm not mistaken, have been available in a million different ways. They've been remastered. They've been, upgraded with faster speeds and resolutions and all that kind of stuff. And so they're actually packaging those things together now as a single game. It has a bunch of the add-on episodes that have come out over the years, like master levels for Doom 2, that TNT Evolution, which I love, Plutonian Experiment, No Rest for the Living, and then Sigil, which is the add-on that John Romero created a couple of years ago. So that one's actually pretty new. There's a whole new episode called Legacy of Rust, which was made by former people from id together as a team. Optimized renderer, 120 hertz, 4K, new accessibility options, which, by the way, are awesome somehow. The game still looks like the game, right? I mean, it's the way it is. But new soundtrack by the original guy. Which sounds awesome.
I love this cartridge for the Super Nintendo.
There's a Super Nintendo cartridge.
That's hysterical.
So the thing is, like, if you ever bought OG Doom, like almost anywhere, like Xbox, Steam, GOG, Epic, wherever it was, wherever you might have gotten it, you're actually just going to get this. So if you bought Doom or Doom 2, the OG version, you're going to just get this new update. So if you didn't, you can get it for $10. I just, I've been talking about like gaming or just laptops for games. I'll tell you, you couldn't find a laptop that couldn't play this game. Like, I downloaded it to that HP I was talking about earlier, kind of got back to work. I went to check on it. It was already done. I'm like, wait, this is already installed. Like, it's like boom, boom,
They're
boom.
so small, right?
It's awesome. Yeah, it's like the size of it. This is an exaggeration. It's like an MP3 file. Like, it's hilarious how small this thing is. But there's a lot of game there. Like, it really does hold up. It
very
obviously
clever.
The graphics aren't there.
But that's not why you're
30
playing
years
it.
old.
It is about the nostalgia.
Yeah, but it's still fun. It's still fun. Like, it's actually still fun.
You're hitting the real point, which is it's one of the reasons we're so in those nostalgic games is that these realism games became less fun because all the energy was put into the realism.
Yeah, that's a good point. You want to have a good, like, a lot of the early Atari, Activision, and Television, whatever games, they're pathetic looking today, but a lot of them are actually very good games. And the gameplay is one of those things that sometimes does get lost in the mix when you can make it look hyper realistic.
Richard, you said, is it Fallout 4 it's your favorite Fallout? Because that's on sale at Good Old Games for $16.
So this will be the case like virtually everywhere, right?
And that's the game you want to play. If you love the movie and you never played the game, or the series, play 4.
I'm going to buy it right now. That's awesome.
3 is
really
also
good prices.
Excellent as well. But 3 and 4 are both great.
Nice.
A New Vegas.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So the original 3 is very much.
Can I play it?
DC.
Okay, here's a question. On my new Qualcomm Snapdragon.
Now that is a great question. That's something I'm definitely going to be.
You know
doing
what? Okay, I'm embarrassed I didn't try this. I bet OG Doom runs fine. I can't say Fallout, but I bet OG Doom
is
does.
pretty old.
Yeah.
It would depend on the emulator being.
Oh, now I want to do that. We're still going to
go play
do
Fallout 4. We'll be right back after this.
It only takes 10 seconds to install. It's going to be quick.
Yeah,
that's really tempting.
And Kevin talking about, if you're going to play New Vegas, get the patches. Like definitely with all of those Fallout games,
Patch,
3, New Vegas 4, go check out the community and look for the optimal configurations. People have improved graphics. Like there's an incredible community around those games. They're really
speaking
fun.
of that, one of the big attractions, a little bit, well, Wolfenstein 2 actually, but the 2 original Doom games and Quake, obviously, and Quake World and all that stuff was that, the guys from id were big into opening these engines up and letting people make games, right? And so back in the Doom world, we had like WAD files, and then they improved, but also made more complex that system in Quake. But when you move forward into modern times with these more complicated games that are running on like in walled gardens of their own, you don't really have this kind of mod capability. So Bethesda or id, which is owned by Bethesda, announced the release of something called, I think it's id Studio or id. I think this is id Studio, which is going to allow modders to create levels for Doom Eternal, which is one of the modern games, using their engine and the tools that they use to create the game. And right now, to get into this, you have to opt into like a PC mod preview, which is available on Steam and the Microsoft Store. So you can actually go and browse and play available mods, meaning like third-party levels, right? Multiplayer levels in Doom Eternal. So this is starting, we're kind of going back to our roots here a little bit, which I think is really cool. So kind of a neat improvement.
So what you're recommending though is do the third-party fan mods as opposed to
what I'm saying, I'm not going to demand any given thing. I'm saying it is in your best interest to spend a little time in the community. You'll see people showing their optimal configuration of the game and so forth, and just get a sense for what is possible in that game.
Yeah,
because it's really extraordinary and a ton of fun.
Nice, very nice. Okay, sorry, we didn't mean to hijack
it's okay.
your
however you
segments.
look at the store and look for the Bethesda stuff. There's a lot of stuff on sale. And this is like you just showed, like that Fallout game. Some really good prices out there.
Nice.
Let's see.
Flight Sim? Oh no, wait a minute. What's this compact mode for Game Bar?
Yeah, so if the Xbox app on Windows started off as kind of a joke, like just a front end for like games, like yet another way to like play, launch games. But it's now the front end for all of the Xbox Game Pass stuff on PC,
like that.
Which is great. It also and the Game Bar, which is actually what used to be called the Xbox Game Bar, is another feature of Windows 11 and I think 10, but 11, let's say for now. That is an overlay that appears on top of whatever you're doing. So you can hit the controller white button and bring this thing up. It's got widgets in different windows, and et cetera. It's the way you can do things like play Spotify music while you're playing a game, or take screenshots and make recordings and manage those things. It's just kind of a cool little extensible interface, right? So now they call that the Game Bar. They have opened it up so that when you have third-party launchers like Steam and GOG and some others, not Epic, I don't think, but a bunch of others, they can appear in there as well. It's not just Xbox, which thus the name change. EA Play and Riot Games are up in there. So it's just for all games. Like, in other words, this is one, like a nice overlay. You can get like the frames per second and see how your GPU is doing, all that stuff, right? So it's kind of a cool thing. But starting, I think it was late last year, they released a compact mode for the Xbox app. And the theory here is that this might become the interface, the front end for gaming on Windows handhelds in the future, because the compact mode makes sense on those small devices, right? Which are essentially a screen with a built-in controller, right? And a built-in computer, obviously. But, it works well with the controller, which the Xbox app does not. And it works well in these small screen devices, which the Xbox app did not, but now does. So now in the Xbox Insider program, they're testing a compact mode for Game Bar as well. And if I understand it, this is just based on shots. I don't have this. I believe what it is you still have that one window for the main interface, which is like a toolbar. And then I believe there's only a single floating window, whereas on the PC, typically you have like multiple windows, one for every widget, and then you can tab between them using the bumper buttons, right? So it's a way to bring that interface down to these smaller screen devices. So I would imagine this is probably going to ship in the October release of 24H2 based on the timing, right? This will become a feature of Windows 11 sometime in the near future. So they're doing this work. It kind of begs the question, like, is Microsoft working on a handheld gaming thing they're not talking about? Like, maybe this is
interesting.
How we get there, right?
Yeah, because you'd need a compact mode for a smaller screen. Yeah.
So yeah,
makes sense.
I mean, that seems like a good idea.
Yeah,
I think simpler is always better. I know this makes me part of the minority in the PC space, but because of my 20 years, playing on consoles, like I still typically want to play games with a controller. And so anything that helps you navigate these interfaces without having to go back to the keyboard or whatever to me makes sense. Okay. So
now, I am a terrible pilot. So I'm
you're
very
going to like this then. Assuming you can land the plane. See, this is the trick. This is the problem.
You have to get there.
Taking off is not a problem. Landing the plane is difficult.
Yes,
unless you're trying to crash into the Eiffel Tower or something which I've done by mistake about 100 times. But apparently, so there's a new version of Flight Simulator coming. I don't know, maybe this was naive on my part, but for some reason I sort of thought Microsoft Flight Simulator would just continue and be improved, but now that's like the 2020 version. So there's going to be a Flight Simulator 2024 later this year that's upgraded in various ways. But one of the features they're going to have is the ability to get out of the plane and I guess take advantage of like the reason a lot of people play this game, which isn't necessarily to fly a plane, but is to enjoy the scenery. Because one of the things they've been doing, they've been bulking out their collection of like really high resolution assets for different places like Paris or parts of Europe or United States, everywhere. Like this, there are famous sites and things like they've done a really good job with that.
They've done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, you could be flying. It's like sunset. There's a mountain. You could like land on the mountain, walk out, go sit on the edge of the mountain, enjoy the sunset, then get back in the plane and keep going or whatever.
No, the problem with getting out of the plane thing is that whole landing part. Like you should be able to get out of the plane, right?
It
would be useful after that to have a parachute.
If they gave me a parachute, I'd be up for it. Yeah.
Knowing Microsoft, that's probably how it's. I can't imagine it's like, no, you got to do a pinpoint landing. It's kind of a short thing because it's a mountain. I don't think they're going to do that to people, but. It would be funny if they did. Yeah. I was just trying to enjoy the sunset.
I like that scene. Jump. You just hop out of the plane. And now I'm going to get to hang out there.
It's kind of goofy, but it begs the question, like, what about Train Simulator? Are we going to have like enjoy the view for, I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's kind of, I don't know.
It's interesting.
Somebody wants them to merge Flight Sim with Forza.
Because then you jump over the train or the plane or jump under the plane. I don't know.
So I jump out of my Piper Cub and I hop into a Bugatti Chiron. And now
right. It's like, it's like that Olympic event where you like ski for a while then shoot.
Yeah,
that ski for a while and shoot. Like this, or like any Fast and Furious movie. Frankly,
there you go. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. And this isn't really gaming related. I just almost don't want to even talk about it, but there is a rumor, and unfortunately it's from Zach, so I kind of trust the guy. I do trust the guy, so I'm kind of worried they might actually be doing this. But despite the fact that Microsoft canned Windows Mixed Reality as a platform, they have supposedly ordered the parts they need for hundreds of thousands of micro OLED, displays. To say it that way, like in English, to use for next generation mixed reality devices. Like, guys, seriously.
Do you think it's HoloLens 3 parts, or do you think it's something else? And arguably, HoloLens.
The rumor
4
is
parts.
that it's for a new kind of mixed reality headset. That's going to be consumer related, so games, movies, and metaverse stuff.
Right. So a Vision Pro for $1,000 or something.
Yeah, listen. At some point, I think for Microsoft, you got to just play to your strengths and
stay in the enterprise. That's what you do.
Just don't.
And by all accounts, there was a HoloLens 3 in final prototype before they canned it because it wasn't good enough. And the team's not gone; they're still maintaining the several 100,000 units that are out there. But they're basically saying we're waiting on hardware to make the next one.
And separately from this, Microsoft has partnered with Meta with the Quest products to do kind of, Microsoft 365 in this environment. Meta has since gotten out of their own productivity services and apps, so it's kind of wide open for Microsoft.
Yeah.
They can see how well that's doing, and that's kind of the volume player in this market. It's not doing great.
No.
Right? I can't imagine why they would do this. I mean, it's not going to be like Windows UWP apps or anything like that. I mean, we're not doing this anymore.
And therein lies the real question all along, which is, can you introduce a new platform where you don't support the information worker first?
I was going to say,
it was the BlackBerry leads to the iPhone, right? Like you need that smartphone platform only worked because the enterprise was there first. I mean, that's the presumption. I don't know that it's actually true.
But even if you just restrict the conversation to Microsoft specifically, Xbox, end of story. You know what I mean? There's no other version of how we're still all using Encarta? Remember the the Mungo Park content sites they used to do with Amazon? Yeah, nobody remembers. This stuff is all come and gone. Windows Phone launched primarily as a consumer device at the very beginning. Big mistake. I don't think this is their wheelhouse. I don't know what they're doing.
No, this would not be the company I'd pick for this. So, I hope there's an enterprise play there.
Or maybe that it's not what we think it is. Maybe they're working with Meta on this. Maybe it's something. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. This seems like a huge mistake to me.
Teams branded Quest headset.
All I want is a new app platform for Windows. If we could just get that going, we can talk. I mean, give it, guys, enough. Just stop. But I don't know.
It's good to try things.
We are not going to stop the show, but we are going to pause so that we can get ready for the back of the book coming up next on this fine Wednesday afternoon, morning, night, whatever it is for you. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell, you're watching Windows Weekly. And I think, let me just check. Yes. Ooh, a nice beverage coming up as well as the back of the book. But first, a word from our sponsor, CashFly. For over 20 years, CashFly has held the track record for high performance, ultra reliable content delivery for 2 decades. They serve over 5,000 companies in over 80 countries, including us. We've been a CashFly customer for 15 of those 20 years. We've been using CashFly for a long time. What do we love about CashFly? Their lag-free video loading, their hyper-fast downloads, their friction-free site interactions. You know what I really love? That I never have to worry about you getting our shows, because I know you're getting them from CashFly, and it's ultra reliable. CashFly is the only CDN built for throughput. Let me give you as an example. Their ultra low latency video streaming. You can deliver video to over 1 million concurrent users, 1 million, with less than 1 second latency. That's unbelievable. If you have a game, you'll love lightning fast gaming with CashFly. Downloads are faster. There's zero lag, zero glitches, zero outages. CashFly is super reliable. If you have a site with images, you'll love mobile content optimization from CashFly. It offers automatic and simple image optimization, so your site loads faster on any device. You get flexible month-to-month billing. This was really important for us because we didn't know when we first started doing this. You may remember at the beginning of Twit, we were using BitTorrent. AOL Radio, I think, was one of the places you were downloading it. We had all these different places because we couldn't find one place that could get all of our content to all of our listeners easily. And it was very spiky. It was just very hard for us to know how much is this going to cost. So they were very flexible with us from day one. You can get month-to-month billing for as long as you need. As soon as you know what you need, you can get discounts for longer fixed terms. I guess the point is you design your own contract when you switch to CashFly. That's what we did, and we couldn't be happier. CashFly delivers rich media content up to 158% faster than other major CDNs. It allows you to shield your site content in their cloud, which means you have a 100% cache hit ratio. No cache misses. That's what we've been doing for a long time. I think we were an early user of this. And with CashFly's elite managed packages, you get the VIP treatment. We love how we get treated at CashFly. CashFly's dedicated account manager stays with you, is with you from day one, ensuring a smooth implementation and reliable 24/7 support when you need it. Learn how you can get your first month free at cashfly.com/twit. You've heard me say it a million times. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com/twit. Cashfly. Thank you, Cashfly. Now, let's see.
Back of the book.
Back of the book time? All right, Mr. Paul Thurrott, kick us off with your tip of the week.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun. I probably have a sound effect for that. Oh, no, that's not it.
That's not it. Well, we'll see how the tip goes.
Okay.
There it is. So I've been talking a lot about Proton lately. They have individual products, mail, calendar, Proton password management, et cetera. But they also have the all-up subscriptions, right? So they have an individual subscription. Well, they have a couple of them actually, family subscriptions. But now they've introduced a Proton Duo plan, which sits between the individual subscription and the family subscription, and is, as its name suggests, designed for
two. It's
couples,
for two,
right? So the base Proton Unlimited plan for individuals gives you 500 gigs of storage and full access to all the apps and services. For $9.99 per month when you're billed annually. This is the same thing, but for two people, but with 1 terabyte of storage for both people, right? And then it's normally $19.99 per month when billed annually, but it's on sale if you're interested in this kind of thing. If you've been waiting for, I have been for $14.99 per month. So I think I might be taking this myself. So $60 savings per year. Plus, every year you're there, they give you a bonus 15 gigabytes of additional storage. So I'm going to take a look at this one. I've been very interested in Proton, as I said, for a while. So that's exciting. Semi-related to this, their Proton Password Manager, which I have been using since, I want to say June now. It's been a while. Is excellent, but they just kind of completed one of the final pieces of the puzzle here, which is full identity management, meaning you can create identities for yourself, like work and home, and then for other people if you have to do things for them online. And it's all the stuff you would expect: name, address, phone number, all that stuff, passport number, driver's license, etc. For all the autofill stuff. So kind of weird that this hadn't been there, but they also turned on biometric authentication on desktop, right? So it's supported this on mobile for a long time. But if you have Windows with Windows Hello or the Mac with Touch ID, you can use that to sign in, which of course is the most seamless way to do this. So awesome. So this thing has gotten a lot better. It's always been pretty great, but it's gotten a lot better recently. So that's kind of cool.
You did a whole hands-on Windows on Password Managers. So
since you mentioned that, little side story, I have an incredible amount of technical difficulties when I record hands-on Windows. And it would be funny if every day that I do that recording, I didn't spend all day making sure that didn't happen. And then I connect with Benito and it's a disaster, like almost every time. I don't know how he puts up with me. It's crazy. And I mean, it would be comical if it happened to anybody else. But for me, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. So this day I had to do password management stuff. And I'm thinking it's got to be live, obviously, right? So I set up a new account on a different thing, and I tried, and I tested everything. And then I'm like, now I have to go to this other computer and do it again with different accounts. And I'm like, this is never going to work. And it was fine. Like it worked. It was like for once in my life, it actually worked.
Yay!
So Benito's the best. I love working.
Yeah. Well, if you're a Club Twit member, you can see the video of that. And if you're not a Club Twit member, you can see the audio or hear the audio of hands-on Windows at twit.tv/HOW if you want to know more. How?
I'm trying to find an appropriate emoticon for this, but I can't.
Anyway, we're glad you do that. It's a great feature. Micah does hands-on Macintosh. We're doing more and more of that, I think. And I'm excited about the idea that we can, thanks to, oddly enough, getting rid of a big studio makes it possible for us to do more little things like that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. I like the hands-on stuff.
I love it. We're so glad you do it. Yeah.
It's fun. It's comical. Like I said, it's unbelievable how much time I spent. Like, all right, I got it. It's perfect. And
we edit all that out, though. Right? I mean, nobody will ever see that part, right?
Right. Well, someday in the future, you'll see a phone link episode that I have to re-record because I did it in Mexico to completely cratered. So stuff happens. Anyway, also tangentially related to this topic, Dashlane, another password manager, fantastic, released their first annual report now about passkey adoption. And this is actually kind of interesting because you can see which companies are driving adoption of passkeys to some degree. One of the asterisks here is that Google and Apple, which are the big identity players in this on mobile, they typically have you go through their stuff. So you're not typically using Dashlane, although Google, you can push through a password manager, and I do. Apple, you can't, right? Because Apple does their own kind of special thing. So the data is a little, off because of that. But, Amazon, number one, 89% growth over the past 3 months in passkey usage. Target, Moneybird, eBay, and then Adobe in the top 5. When you look at like GitHub, which I've kind of called out because password implementations are all over implementations are all over the place. Some of them are really good. Some of them are like, GitHub is just fantastic. They're actually in the top 10 for growth. They've done 36% growth over the past 3 months. Fantastic. Which is really interesting. And then they also looked at like the percentage of authentications that go through passkeys as opposed to, well, I guess it would be passwords or maybe 2FA of another kind. And these numbers are really small, right? Because passkeys are still, people struggle with this stuff. So like 13.8% of eBay's authentications go against passkeys. That's the best one, right? The rest of them are all
now. Was that a percentage growth, or is that the actual
percentage of actual authentications against eBay? So they've done a good job of kind of promoting it to people.
Do you think it's going to take off? I mean,
yeah.
That's the real question.
I do, and what it comes down to, this blows my mind. But when I talk about 2FA, I hear from people all the time. It's too inconvenient for me to pick up my phone and do what I'm supposed to do on the phone, which is to me is ridiculous. Like that's a little bit of inconvenience, but it's so much more secure. It's so smart to do an authenticator app, right? Passkeys are even better because they can be, they're device specific, which introduces a little bit of complexity. You have to create one on every device.
Use a password manager, right?
That's what's going to put it over the top. So I right now, like I said, using Proton Pass. I went in and pushed new passkeys for Amazon, all my Google accounts, Microsoft. I can't remember if I did. Yeah, Microsoft, and with Google especially, like Google, I've had a lot of problems with the Google stuff. Now it's awesome. You just type in your email address, hit enter, passkey's the default. The little thing from the password manager comes down, you click it, and you're in.
It all depends on who gets there first, though. Like I've had that problem where I've gone to set up a passkey with something like GitHub, and
that's right.
Microsoft Windows, Hello has intercepted it and wants to throw the passkey. It's like, no, I want this in Bitwarden.
No, you want it to be portable, right?
Yeah. And
so you're right. You're 100%. That's it. And this kind of speaks to the implementation thing. The other thing is portable passkeys are not part of the spec. So when companies do this, like Dashlane does this, or Proton Pass does this, like they're doing their own thing. Now those are trustworthy companies. It's not that's not the issue. It's just that Fido might at some point come and agree, like, look, here's the way this should be. It should be a standard. And you'll be able to move passkeys around at some point, right? Yeah. So in the same way that you import all your passwords, when you adopt a new password manager, you'll be able to import all your passkeys. And I think that those are the things that just make it.
I would also think the adoption is slow because the kind of people that even consider this are already using authenticators and things. That's right. Like, what does this buy?
Security key. They're already doing the right stuff. But we're going to look back on passwords the same way we look back at like smoking on planes. We're not going to believe that we ever did that. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. I probably could have put that in the regular show. I just wasn't sure where that would go.
Good place.
And then last week I talked about some new releases of web browsers. A little bit less going on this week, but there was a new version of Firefox last week. They've actually 0.01 that, fixed some bugs and problems. If you're a Firefox guy, get that. And then Opera, not Opera On as the notes say, but Opera One, which is their new flagship AI.
Oh shoot! I thought there was a new Opera called Opera On.
No, sorry about that. No. Is now on the iPad and iPhone, right? So you get that same kind of really clean experience. You get the ARIA built in, all this.
Do you like this? Should I?
I do. No, you shouldn't. I do like it. People are asking me this. Like, I like Brave and I like Arc.
I'm using Arc on the iPhone, and it's a little weird because it's an AI search.
It's not the same.
It's not
the
a browser
experience.
exactly.
No, it's interesting. It's like it feels experimental to me. But the thing is, once you use authenticator apps, password managers, and then if you have some sort of a third-party something for bookmarks, or just don't use them, which is actually the better approach. Moving between different browsers becomes really easy. So you could say, just make something up. You're like an iPhone person, like I'll just use Safari. Who cares?
Right.
And then when I'm on Windows, I'll just use, well, I wouldn't use Edge. That's crazy. Use, Brave or, Arc or whatever. Everything's, you still get the same password stuff. You seem to get the portable passkeys, all that stuff. So, by doing this stuff, you can kind of have the best experience wherever you are. I don't know. Like Opera to me is great. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's a little complex, although compared to Arc, it's like a walk in the park. But I think it's really oriented well for power users and for people who like to really configure their experience, and especially on desktop because there's more capabilities there. It is very good. I just personal preference thing.
You also have no. That's it.
No,
that's it. We're done. Thank God.
I know. It feels sometimes like I'm never going to stop.
No, just teasing.
I'm so sorry. No, it is.
It is Richard
how I feel
Stern.
about myself.
Run as radio time, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Campbell. What's coming up?
Speaking of passkeys, today published episode 945, which I did with Tarek Dawood, who's part of the Entra team and a brilliant guy, really fun to talk to. And what did we talk about but passkeys in the enterprise? So this is an ongoing set of shows. I've been talking to a bunch of different Entra folks. So we're getting deeper into where they're at. And so Tarek did a great job of sort of drilling through how the FIDO Alliance is trying to move this thing forward, the sort of renaming of password lists and, where the passkeys thing came from and what they're trying to do inside of Entra to make passkeys more widely adopted. Like Paul, you mentioned sort of Google and Apple doing their own thing. Clearly, Microsoft's doing their own thing as well. And so if MFA is pretty much essential now for an M365 entity, so we're on the same path for passkeys as well. It's not being official yet, but it definitely they're working that through. We did talk about the inconsistent implementation of passkeys, just like how difficult it is. And passkeys are supported by Microsoft Authenticator. So, when it comes to Microsoft-related sites and an identity using passkeys, you'll probably want to land them in Authenticator. But there is no PC-based Authenticator thing. That's all going to be hello. So you still have the portability problem. Like if you're already down the Authenticator path, I don't know how you move on this. And most admins I've talked to are like, listen, it's enough that I got these guys to MFA. Tell me what you want me to change now, and for what? So I think there's still a resistance to it. It's not buying things for us, and it definitely feels like one of those products where the longer the wait, the easier this is going to get.
Awesome. Runasradio.com.
Certainly, when it comes to phishing resistance, this is what this is about.
It just seems like such an improvement to be passwordless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hope
passwordless is the best. It's just the best.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Once you're fully onto a password manager where you don't know your passwords anyway, life is already good.
Yeah.
Whether that's
the letting go moment. Well, and deleting your old passwords. That moment where you're like, you know what? I don't need to know this password.
I don't know any of them.
I will never delete the passwords. That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
There's going to be a day
it is
when
a bridge
the passkey
too far.
doesn't work.
That's one thing for sure. With every passkey account I've set up, I have not removed any other authentication strategies.
Yeah, keep it all.
Hey, if you're a Microsoft account holder, you could remove your password entirely from that account if you want. I don't know a single human being that's done that, but if you wanted to,
the point is you could
go nuclear.
Yeah.
All right, you have earned your brown liquor pick of the week.
Back of the book,
Mr. Richard Campbell.
So. Still moving in here, I rearranged the cellar this weekend. And one of the things that happened was I dug through a couple of boxes of whiskey that I had for a while. And one of them was this Bowmore 15. Who knew?
I think that's a very good whiskey.
It's a very nice whiskey, and it's a 1 liter bottle too. It's the big one.
Oh,
so
nice.
Probably a birthday present.
Does it have a handle?
Nope, not
Okay.
not
My
a
mom
handle.
wouldn't want it then.
But it is a liter, so normally I would get the 750. This is of course an Isla. And that's the southernmost island of the Inner Hebrides, about 20 miles by 25 miles long. There's about 3,000 people who live on that island today. It's had a storied history of all sorts of things. An amazing place. There are really only 3 areas on Isla where whiskey is made. There's up in the northeast, close to Jura, where Bunab, Ardennau, and Cowela are made. Down in the southeast, which is what most of the time when you see photographs of Isla, that's what you see. That's Ardbeg, Lagavulin, Lefroy, Port Ellen. There's a new distillery under construction there called the Port Untruan, which is owned by Elixir. And then where Beaumont is, which is Lochindaal. So if you see a picture of Isla, you'll see that there's a bay in the south, and in there is where you'll see Beaumont, Bruichladdich, and Port Charlotte, which hasn't been open for forever, but is still a famous and popular distillery. Lochindaal is a saltwater lock. It's quite shallow and rocky, so it's not meant for big ships. There's a bit of a corridor cut through to the dock at Bruichladdich, but other than that, shallow water boats, fishing boats, that kind of thing. During World War II, RAF Coastal Command stationed their flying boats there to protect convoys from submarines. And, of course, all things, when it comes to Isla, they're known for their peated whiskeys. That wasn't always true. Peated whiskeys used to not be very popular, but I've told the story before, we talked about Lagavulin, when United Distillers did their classic malt series in 1988, and Lagavulin was the only one of the Islas that was on there, and it was peated, and it was not expected to sell well, and it sold huge, and essentially started the peated movement. I think when you think about the timing, then that sort of Gordon Gekko-ish, peated whiskey and cigars go well
good.
together.
I think I remember that from the movie. Yes.
Yeah. That if you like a cigar, you're going to like a peated whiskey. And one of the reasons I have Beaumont out is that it's barbecue time, and I've been smoking ribs and salmon and all sorts of things. And when I've got a lot of smoke going around me, I like smoking my whiskey as well. Most of the time I don't drink peated whiskey, but this is the time of year where, peat works for me. And so I was happy to find that Beaumont and crack it open and enjoy it. And so I thought I'd tell the story. You'll see right on the bottle, it says established 1779 by a guy named John Simpson. There's no evidence that he actually made whiskey in 1779. That seems like a marketing play. The first license taken by Simpson to sell whiskey was in 1816. But if you use a 1779, then you get to call yourself one of the oldest running distilleries in Scotland, and likely the oldest running in Isla as well. Not that he kept it for forever. It was sold to the Mutter family out of Glasgow in the 1830s. They were whiskey blenders and very successful ones who held on to it for the better part of 100 years. It shut down during World War I, and coming out of the war and into Prohibition, the Mutter sold it off to another company in 25, and then it changed hands again in 50. The one that everybody knows really is formed in 63, when Stanley Morrison buys it with a group of partners to create Morrison's Beaumont Distillery. And that's sort of a key time for Beaumont. When you talk about buying a $10,000 bottle of Beaumont, which, I talk about all the time, you're talking about a 1960s edition from the Morrison era. And it stayed that way until Suntory started getting involved in 1989. So that's around the time of United Distillers and so forth. And Suntory took complete control of Beaumont in 1994. So that's sort of the evolution of the company per se. By the way, they have a great tour. It's beautiful. And in fact, if you are all in on the whiskey thing, they have a set of workers' cottages from the 1800s that you can rent if you want to hang out there.
Do you have to drive there in Aston Martin? Apparently you do.
They have a big deal with Aston Martin. So yes, there's a lot of Aston going on there.
Oh, you get a chauffeur-driven tour of the island in Aston.
And it's not a huge place, and it's very beautiful. I mean, Scotland is tough terrain. This is a southern more part of Scotland, but beautiful spot. There's no bridges onto Isla. You have to take a ferry.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I have talked about Beaumont before when I was doing the Scottish series back in the day, and on 818 I mentioned Beaumont because we were talking about malting, and one of the things that Beaumont promotes is the fact that they still do floor maltings to this day. So they buy barley off of Isla, and they actually malt it themselves. Their normal process is they only peat it after it's malted, so it's turned green, it's starting to sprout. Then they dry it, and the first 18 hours of drying, they do with peat. And then there's an additional 40 something hours with just heat, because you don't want too much peat. This is not a heavily peated whiskey. But to be honest, these guys make way too much whiskey. They make millions of liters of whiskey a year. And so there's no way they're doing that all in Bowmore. And the reality is that they buy the vast majority of their barley already ground to specification and peated to specification like everybody else. But they maintain a small amount of floor malt still, because they just don't have the room to do anything more. Their water comes from the River Lagan, which runs through the center of Isla and drains into Lachendal. They do a relatively short fermentation, only 48 hours or so. They have 6 wooden washbacks, about 40,000 liters each, and 2 wash stills and 2 spirit stills, relatively small, 20,000 liters for the wash stills, 12,000 liters for the spirit stills. Their new make typically comes in at 69%, but of course they barrel at 63.5%. because they almost exclusively do their initial barrelings in used bourbon casks. And as we know, I hope you memorize this because there will be a test, the Americans barrel at 62.5 when they make bourbon. And so the Scots have learned to go in at 63.5 to pull additional flavors from those used bourbon casks.
More.
That 1% makes all the difference. Their warehouses, they mostly use dunnage warehouses. That's the dirt floor, side rack, 3 high. They have 1 racked warehouse, so the pallet style warehouse, which I think they do their finishing in primarily. And in the case of the 15, they do 12 years in bourbon and 3 years in sherry. The question here, and the one that hit me when I was looking at this particular bottle, is what's up with the 15 versus the 12 or the 18? Like, you see that pattern a lot. So I went and dug around for a while. And there's a lot of distilleries that make like a 12 and a 15 and an 18 and then a 20 something. Many of them make a 21. In the case of Bowmore, they make a 25. Like on the Spey, Fiddick, Dalmore, Macallan, Livet, they all do a 12, 15, 18, 21. Farkless does everything. They make all kinds of things, right? When you talk about the islands, Highland Park, 12, 15, 18, 21. Bowmore, 12, 15, 18, 25. Cal-Ela, Lefroy. Even in the lowlands, Auchentoshan does it. Glendronach does it. Like, there's a lot of different distilleries that follow this pattern of the 12, the 15, the 18, and then a 20-something. But why? Why would you do this? Like, what's the big deal? If you look at it from a pricing perspective, 12-year-olds are very tightly priced together. In the US dollars, you'll find them between $60 and $75 across the board these days, which is up. Right? It didn't used to be this expensive, but things cost more these days. The spread's a little bit bigger when you get to 15s, so $75 to $150. The 18s, the spread gets bigger now, $125 on the low side, up to over $300 on the high side.
I want the Bowmore Black from 1960. Wait a minute, there's one as old as me.
Yeah. Bowmore's been making whiskey for a long time, man. And if you've got an urge to spend the price of a house on whiskey, they are willing to help you.
But would it be better?
That is the question, Leo. Why am I talking about this?
This is
12,
the smartest
15, 18,
thing Richard has ever
20.
said to me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, I know exactly where you're going with this, and this is the greatest knowledge you will ever get.
Okay, tell us. Yeah. Is it better with age? Does it get better with age?
Up to a point, right? Like, I've drank a lot of different whiskeys, and some 20s are great, some are not. I've never met anything older than a 20, and I've tried 40s. I've even tried a 50. No.
What happens if, like, God help you, if it is the best thing you ever drank?
Yeah. Well, now you're talking about something else,
because now,
I've had this experience. Yeah.
Like this thing is,
I met a Centenary bottle that was like $15,000 for the bottle. I wanted $750 a shot, and I didn't try it because there was no good outcome, right? $750 for a shot. If you don't like it, you blew $750. If you do like it, you want a $15,000 bottle of whiskey, and you're about to get divorced, right? Like, don't go there.
So
awful.
What would your recommendation be? The 15?
It depends. Listen, the reason they cost more mostly is because the market will bear for more. And the reason they follow the same patterns is because they've educated the public to expect more from a higher price bottle.
Well, and
it does cost more to store it longer, right? There's a few things that are going on here. The longer a barrel stays in a rack, the less alcohol it's in it. So, the 12-year, a given barrel of 12-year-old produces a lot more whiskey, like 10, 20% more than the 15-year-old. And then the 18-year-old, like you literally are going to get less whiskey per barrel. So that costs something. You are paying for maintenance and storage and so forth. Also, the barrels are individually insured. So the longer you store that barrel, the more likelihood there's something wrong with it. So the insurance costs more. Like there's a bunch of things that add up here. But it's mostly what the price will bear. Here's the other thing that's going to get you, that'll surprise you when you talk about, like, let's talk about the 12, 15, the 18, and the 25 of Bowmore, all of which I've had, including the 25, which, by the way, is on YouTube. If you search well on YouTube, and I'll give you the key thing to search for, which is Drunk Kitchen, you will see me pouring a Bowmore 25. They're not made the same. So the Bowmore 12, which is I think I looked on Total Wine, it was $68 US right now. It's a 40%. It's peatier than the other ones because it hasn't been aged as long. Remember, the peat comes in at the beginning on the grain. It doesn't come from the barrel. So the longer it spends in the barrel, the milder the peat gets. And for the most part, Bowmore 12 is only aged in bourbon. It looks like it does a finish in sherry, maybe 6 months, 9 months. That's about it. Bowmore doesn't need to tell us. The 15 we've already talked about. This is about a $120 bottle of whiskey, 43%, which is relatively low, but this is chill filtered and colored for consistency's sake. So that's why they can be so low. They don't worry about flocculation. 12 years in bourbon, 3 years in sherry. That's the clearest one. The 18, so now you're jumping up to about $175 for the bottle. Same ABV. They are quite clear about saying it's made only in bourbon. And then finally, the 25, which, if you can find one, is a $640 bottle of bourbon, of whiskey. Again, still 43%. They do say it was aged in sherry. They don't say how long. The thing to know is that when a distillery lays up a barrel, so clear spirit goes into a barrel, it's not like they know, 18 years from now, this is going to be awesome. They don't know. Right? Every year, the weather's a little different. The location the barrel stays, affects things. This thing's right by the ocean, so it's going to have a certain amount of salt. Like, they have to sample it. And if it falls below 40%, they can't sell it. So often, if it's losing alcohol too fast, they'll get rid of it to somebody else, to one of the specialty bottlers, rather than try and keep it in their own lines. And you don't know when it's going to be good, when it's going to be great, or when it's going to be the flavor profile. So often they're not happy with the barrel, so they'll lay it up for longer. So most of the time, these older barrelings, they've been laid up because they didn't surface as the product they would sell the most of, the 12s or the 15s. So you got to think in the terms of somewhere around year 11 of a bunch of barrels being laid up. They're tasting them and going, you know what? This set is going to work well for 12. Do their finishes in the sherry and send them on their way. These ones, we're not quite happy with it. Let's finish out the 12 and then we'll kick them over to sherry. At the 12 mark, you're still not happy with it. You don't want to put it in the sherry yet. So maybe that's going to be 18 barrels. So you leave them lay for longer to see if they're going to turn around. Right? In some ways, these older and older editions, they're all the problem children. Right? Like, they weren't doing well. And so they kept them for longer. It's not like they knew this thing's just going to get better every time. They don't know. And they charge a lot for it. Now, back to Leo's real question. Where's the value?
No, I just want a good, I'm not sure. Is value the right way to put it? I'm not a value drinker.
Yeah.
I just want to know if I get
bang for the
buck.
buck.
With wine, with brandy, with sherry, with port, age often equals a better.
Yeah, but not always.
Not always. But
none of these are bad. Like, let's be clear. The 12 is peatier, right?
See, that I would like to pay to get rid of.
Right. And if you're after peat, go get an Ardbeg 10. Like, that's like licking a forest fire. You're going to have all the peat you ever need, right?
Yeah.
The 15, with its extra years in sherry, it's twice the price of the 12. But pretty damn good drink. So the 18, now you're adding 50% of the price again. And for the same volume. That's going to be smoother and lighter still.
So it does get smoother with age. I guess that's the question I was asking. But it does something.
But
does
if you were
happen with
after
age.
smoothness, go get a Dalmore 12.
Right.
Like the whole thing is you were there. You didn't buy a Bowmore because you didn't want peat. So what are you doing, right?
Yeah. Good point.
And now, why did I have a 25 and why did it end up on YouTube? And like, you guys can figure that out and we'll do a test later. Again, it was a gift. A friend of mine for a
it's
major
not a bribe
birthday.
if it's given ahead after the favor.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, but look, is this peated? You're darn right this is peated. This is peated whiskey. It's not a poke in the face peat, but it's like, no, there's smoke in there, and I've been smoking ribs, so I want smoke, right?
But
Yeah,
do you
I guess
wake up
that's
in the
right,
morning
yeah.
smelling like smoke? That's all I'm asking. It's like,
Yes.
have you been sitting
So
around a campfire all night?
The day after I smoke ribs, the next morning when I take a shower, I smell the kickery smoke again.
Yeah,
Right? It all comes
that's
out.
that's-
then.
yeah.
My wife
You lay
loves
down
it
in a
when I
pillow
smoke.
and then you roll over and you can smell it in the pillow.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, oh, what have I done?
Lisa says that's the best perfume is a smoker's
Is
smell.
the smoke
Not
smoke
smoking
yeah.
cigarettes or cigars,
No.
but
Yeah.
the
hickory. I do
hickory
the
smoke.
ribs in hickory, and I do the salmon and alder. I've done some pork shoulders with applewood.
Do you do it on a plank or the salmon?
No, no.
it right on the grill.
Planking is a different thing. I'm actually talking about a proper hot smoke, so alderwood, and
How long?
it takes 45 minutes to hot
pretty
smoke.
quick. Okay.
Yeah. It's just not cold smoke. Cold smoke's a different thing. Then you're curing the fish, and
Yes, that's
you
what
gotta
I
be more
like.
careful.
I like
yeah,
the
making
cures.
lox takes more time.
Yeah, so good.
I got the rig for it, but she usually shows up with a side of sockeye. It's
know
like,
what?
smoke this.
Let's wrap this show. It's time for gas station sushi, and I'm in the mood.
Yeah. Speaking of smoke, I like my salmon with a little touch of diesel.
Little diesel flavor.
It's pretty good when you get it when it's fresh. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Anyway, I mean, I wanted to talk about this aging behavior, just to recognize that it's not that it's a scam. You're definitely getting different products. You're not buying it because you're getting a huge value for the money. That's not the case.
I like Wojo's remarks. It's like binning.
I thought that was good.
CPUs, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of
It's
ways.
like the binning of whiskey. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, and I've
Whiskey
spent
in a
time with
bin.
the barrel guys, and that's sort of the reality of it. Like, and the funny thing is, the anxiety gets up as it gets older, where it's like, I'm going to have to kick this over to Cooper's Green or to Gordon MacPhail, which I'm going to get wholesale price for versus I can get the retail price for this. Although, admittedly, when you look at it at $150 for a bottle of whiskey, how much of that is going to the guy who made it? It's like 20%. Even here in British Columbia, the markup for commercial whiskey, and I think I talked about this when we were talking about the craft whiskey thing, 125%. Right? Governments take a huge chunk of the price of alcohol. Yeah. Anyway, I get to drink whiskey at my job. It's good. Should you buy this? Absolutely. It's one of the nicer peats. It's not a big peat, right? Like, if you want a big peat, get the Lagavulin. If you really want big peat, get an Ardbeg. If you're insane, you'll get an Octomore. Don't do that. But with a cigar, which I don't do. I don't smoke anything except meat. With a cigar, these things are fantastic. And around a barbecue, absolutely. Like I said, it's very seasonal for me. And don't worry, I found weirder stuff in my cellar when I reorganized it. So I've got a couple of weeks of things sitting here now. We're going to go strange places from here. This was the normalest thing I found in those.
I'm excited. I am really excited. Richard Campbell. We actually, Kevin King, our producer and editor, made a whole series on YouTube of Richard's whiskey talk, which we do at the end of every show. And there's
Which I think we've established he's kind of mailing in a little bit lately. Is that what the point was last week?
I don't think he's.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I think it's all good. Yeah. It's all delicious. Even the Jack. I like it all.
Yeah. No, I'm having an experience too. I came into this thinking I knew my way around whiskey, but a couple of years of hanging with you guys and doing this every week, I see whiskey differently now.
Oh, that's really good.
Do.
I like that you're
that's
obsessed about this, like the way I'm obsessed about like Windows 11 updates. Like we all have our own little.
I did not show you the graphs I made of the pricing of 12, 15, and 18s. Like I got to a point where late at night I looked at it and said, this 3 hours qualifies for one sentence. I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, you got to put the time in. That's part of it.
Well, I pulled the numbers together.
He's got more of those whiskey clips coming. So
That's
thank you,
great.
Kevin, for doing that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. We have come to the end of this edition of Windows Weekly. Been a lot of fun. The first one up in the attic.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. I love your attic. I think it's really
pretty,
cool.
isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's nice.
It's awesome.
I apologize for the, I'm doing the switching and I'm getting better and worse at it at the same time. There's a lot more
Learning how to use it.
sliding and slipping around.
It's like riding a bike, Leo.
Oh, it's a new rig.
Maybe.
I've never ridden this bike, so it's like riding a bike you've never ridden before, maybe. But I have to say, we're working on it. I love the fact that I can pull in chat.
Yeah.
Because that really makes it kind of fun to put in these little comments as we go. I love it that we're streaming now on Twitch, on YouTube, on Discord for our club members, on Kick, Facebook, X.com. By the way, no DDoSing so far on X.com. We've been a flawless stream. So there.
Nice. Also, no slurring. So
no
we got
slurring?
that going for us.
That might come later after the whiskey.
Although Richard was working on that.
Yes.
I'm doing my best, friends. I really am.
7 different platforms. So it's easy to watch us. We're live on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. If you don't watch live, and I know, it's a work day and you probably have things to do, you can always watch on demand. That's the whole point. It's a podcast. You can get the show from the website, twit.tv/WW. Paul puts it on Thurrott.com. You can also see it on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Windows Weekly for the video. Or subscribe to the audio or video version, whichever suits your fancy, in your favorite podcast player. That way you'll get it automatically as soon as Kevin polishes it up, fixes my transitions, and gets it out the door on the website. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And a special thanks to our club members. Without you, we are nothing. You paid for this attic. Thank you. You paid for Richard, and you paid for Paul, and all the stuff, and Kevin, and all the stuff we're doing. The club makes a huge difference to our bottom line. And I think you get some great benefits, including ad-free versions of all the shows. Plus, this very special graphic, carefully designed by Anthony Nielsen. If you're watching the video, subscribe. Either click the QR code in the upper left-hand corner or go to twit.tv/clubtwit, and you will be able to spend $7 a month to support what we do, and that is really important to us, and we are very grateful to all of you. Thank you so much for your support to our Club Twit members. Of course, if you're in Club Twit, you get in the Discord too. You can be part of it. So that's fun too. Paul Thurrott is at Thurrott.com. That's where his writings go. Become a premium member, as I am, and you'll get even more. Mr. Richard Campbell does 2 podcasts, Run as Radio and .NET Rocks. They're both available from runasradio.com.
On top of Windows Weekly, I really do 3 podcasts.
Oh, you do? I forgot about this one. Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. And then, yes, you don't. I know you don't click QR codes. You scan them. Yes, click them with your eyes. That's the way to do it.
Or your camera. It'll work better with your camera.
Yeah, do it with your camera. I'm really, you know what? This instant feedback, I'm not sure I like it.
Yeah. It's fine as long as you don't listen to
Nobody
it.
likes to be judged, is all I'm saying.
You can have instant feedback. You just don't have to have an instant response.
No, I'm just kidding. We love having you in the audience. Thank you for watching. Thanks you for listening. And if you only listen after the fact, make some time on a Wednesday just to watch the live stream, because that's a lot of fun before and after as well. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Paul. We will see you next week. You're going to both stay where you are, or we have some travels?
One more week.
Here.
Okay. So we will do this all again, just like this, from our homes. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.